afternoon and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Starbase Weekly, the RGV aerial deep dive into images he captured from the ground and air in Boca Chica, Texas. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. The channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Starbase Weekly. My name is Mauricio. This is episode 57 and I'll pass this along to Indian Star.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wet Dress Rehearsal Preparation Episode 2 of Season 2, or Episode 57. And I will pass it over to Dave.
And hello everybody, and welcome to the land of things happening at Massey's and around the Starbase site. And I will pass it over to Grandpa Joe.
Thanks, Dave, and hi to your dog right there. So we're very dog friendly here at RTV's live stream. I've been out for a while, and I'm looking forward to getting caught up myself. I've been reading and catching up on the internet with all things Starbase, and I'm ready to dive in and see all the exciting things. I hope there's been some exciting things, and we'll see. You know what? So let's find out. Turning it right over to Thomas.
Thank you, Grandpa Joe. It's going to be an interesting day. I'm going to be driving here. Zach's out today. So we do have no ground or only ground shots. So this is the shot from last week. It was quite cloudy. So unfortunately, we don't have any good shots besides the ones from last week here. But we do have plenty of amazing details to go through. So let's jump in. So we'll start off here with Massey's. As always, it's just really changing each week. There has been so many details we've been looking at specifically. So this is another photo from last week. You could see, the changes even dramatically more so from this photo here compared to what we have now.
Yeah, I didn't even see the 3 new tanks going in. How long have they been there? About a week or two?
About 3, I think, weeks now. They were sitting right over here for the longest time.
Right.
And then
they're installed.
Yeah, they're installed, and it's just crazy because we're looking at how much they have here and how much they can basically add in addition to what they have.
Oh, and Thomas, I don't know if it's you or me, but I'm getting huge pixelation on your stream.
Yeah, I got the same.
Oh dear.
Bottom half of your image is clean, top half is pixelated.
Yeah, exactly. Weird. We're going to blame Discord, and while Thomas looks at that for a second, Dave, what are we looking at here? We got all the. Oh, there we go. Perfect, Thomas.
Well, momentarily there. We got lots of things happening here. The big one is smack dead center is the big yellow crane with a auger for drilling auger caissons in,
Ooh.
And it is drilling very deep holes. You can see the rebar cages sitting on the concrete to the right with their little strings hanging off the end to pick them up with. And they're putting something there. And the big question is what? And I think I'm going to ask Thomas. Thomas, what do you think is going here?
I'm thinking we're going to be looking at their actual test stand. So we're looking at something that it's either going to be just for starships, or the Raptor engines, or we could also be looking at the Super Heavy booster itself. So let me...
real quick, not a civil engineer, but as I understand, a caisson is like just a drilled hole filled with concrete and rebar that then allows something really, really heavy to be put on top of it. So yeah, them doing this tells us something substantial is going there, not just a pipe or a tube or not
Right.
something small like that. It's
Well, if you look where the other yellow crane is off in the upper left, which is the can crusher, that's just a slab. There's nothing underneath that concrete but dirt. Here we're putting let's see, 40, 50-foot deep holes filled with concrete and rebar. And however many they're going to put in, and that's going to be the big question: is what area, what pattern, and how many caissons are going in here.
Tower 4 coming here. Got it.
That's not too far off in a sense of what we're potentially looking at here. So let me actually switch over to this. I couldn't find it. It was just all small here. So here's the tweet from the SEC for it's a Massey site. It's not the Massey site for the coordinates they give. They give the new coordinates. But they're looking at doing on-ground testing of Starship Super Heavy test vehicles communications at SpaceX, and this is the test facility is referring to the separate Massey site. It's the new one, which is it's not correct. It's you don't want bullet holes in your vehicles that you're getting radio communications with. So they're really looking at the I think trying to do this site here. So
Thomas,
this Massey's
down here in the South, we just get used to everything having bullet holes in it, and if it doesn't work with bullet holes, it just ain't going to work.
True. Lots of stop signs have lost
Right.
their ability to function.
So the other big thing we've got here is to the left, we have a welding setup on the left side of this image that they've got a lot of pipe and elbows and U-loops and other things stacking up out here. They're getting ready for something with a lot of action going in here. Probably more tank farm, and we can sort of see some trenching in the upper center here and pipe stands coming over to where they're drilling caissons in. I mean, they're building quite the thing up here. Right behind the yellow crane, there's a concrete pad that's got a huge valve manifold complex going in on it.
Yeah, you got a little suborbital test area right there.
How about twice the size of suborbital?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be able to do at least, it looks like, cryo for boosters. Like that's the capacity that we're potentially looking at here.
So, Thomas, if I can get you to drive your mouse for me, starting at the new tanks in the top left, and then you can see where they're going to go, where they have pipes going off to the right, and then pipe stands going down into that trench. So I would guess all those pipes are going to run from that trench to the new manifold area and then wind up right at the new test stand where they're drilling those caissons.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's interesting is that we also have another big piece of news going on here. It's separate, but it's going to probably happen to this part of the site, is all of the tanks and a lot of infrastructure from 39A, that's the old stuff, is coming here. And I believe it's going to be in a spot like this. So this area right here, it looks like it's suitable for more tanks, and even this area right here. So between the two, it probably will have additional tanks. We'll probably fill up this entire area here.
So they have, according to CSI Starbase and some other sources, they have decommissioned the old, I think it was ITS originally built for, not ever used, box farm. And they've also decommissioned the deluge system, including all the water piping. And it's all sitting on one huge barge that should be leaving Cape Canaveral probably today or tomorrow.
And do you think they're going to also move the tower or the mega bay on over on the next barge?
Don't think so, but all I know is Bayou Bandit, which is a tug that we have seen working this before, and I can't remember the name of the other tug. Bigger tug is standing by to pull it across the Gulf and probably go to the port of Brownsville.
Yeah, and that brings up a lot of questions and speculation about, and at one point they were moving a lot of stuff from Starbase to Cape, and we thought, oh, they're going to move away from Texas. I don't know, maybe they're investing more heavily in Texas and they've gotten some more leeway. What do you think? Is the environment getting better or worse in one place or another, Dave?
I think that we've got two parallel things happening, and they're just shuffling some pieces and parts between them. It looks like we just built a huge tank, maybe water, maybe cryo at the Cape, and that might mean that the horizontal tanks that were there are now surplus. So they're coming here.
I like the idea that tank is just an insurance policy against a starship exploding and impacting Falcon operations.
Well, the funny thing about 39A is they have multiple ways of getting water. As far as the amount of water that they need for their deluge systems, their fire suppression systems, they have enough ways of getting access to that water. Where here at basically Starbase, the only place they really are getting water is from here. So it's not a lot of capacity. This is all reverse osmosis, but it's a very funny thing because I'm looking at it. You've got 3 tanks right here. Those are going to be the ones delivering all of their potable water to the rest of Starbase. And actually, this would be drinking water. It's so reverse osmosis makes it really clean. In fact, it pulls out some of the minerals that you have to add back in. Otherwise, it's like distilled water, which is bad.
Well, they're also using this water. I mean, this is also their dust suppression water supply. 2 of those tankers are equipped with water spreaders, and they're going all over the site every day, just laying water down everywhere there's dirt to keep the dust down. And speaking of water, you have a perfect freeze on this image here. To the upper left-hand corner, we're missing something. There are some big pipe elbows and T's that have all disappeared in the last week.
Oh, we're missing a whole lot here. So let me go through some more of these images. I actually I'll just jump right to the image. So that should be, there we go. This entire area is missing a lot of things. We still have these manifolds in here for the valves that would go with those pipes. They're about the same diameter, but we're missing the T's, we're missing the elbows. It's all been moved off, but we'll kind of see.
Can you jump to last week's picture that you had up a minute ago?
Actually, do we have 2 weeks ago when we had all of them? Because last week we already had an elbow disappear or a T disappear. It showed up at Sanchez. This week everything's disappeared.
We'll give somebody in research a second to find an image.
And I'm also noticing. Do I remember all these wood crates here right at the bottom of the image?
These ones?
Are those wood?
Those ones.
It looks like wood, and it's been covered in cardboard on this one, or maybe it's just cracked open.
Or it's ripping open, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so...
a little aggressive.
Well, what we'll see, if you keep an eye out, is these shelves right here. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for all this stuff that's supposed to be here. This is last week. It's changed quite a bit. No, I'm cut off the shelves. Actually, you can see them right here. So they were full of everything they needed, and this entire area is just emptied out. This area is emptying out. The boxes are over here. I think they're boxing things up.
I think look on the truck right there by the tent. I think that's the boxes that are there. I think 2 of those 3 boxes are still over by the shelves on this week's image.
Yeah, so this one is, I remember seeing this pop up over here afterwards. So they were taking it down. But the craziest part is that the shelves are now empty. It seems like they're moving a lot of this over to Sanchez.
Right, and then now we have those 4, whatever they are, 30-degree elbows and the T's all in that image, and now they're all gone.
Yeah. Oh, and the coolest part is actually looking at, going back to this stuff. We're doing the video. Just keep looking at this dirt. I keep going after the piles of dirt. But they're pulling up the slag from here and depositing over here. It's just one of those things that I noticed last night.
Yeah.
One thing that
I'm really trying to discern a pattern on where those caissons are being set. I haven't figured one out yet.
Yeah, we've got 3 right here, and we've got 3 right here. So it looks to be like an ISO grid, the way that they're moving it around instead of just a grid.
Well, I'm wondering, so if we got 3 and 3, could these be for legs of a large tripod?
Oh, there's a lot more than this. That's the funny part. Like, I think there's one right here. They're just all over this area that they're currently standing on.
Well, more to be discovered next week.
Yeah.
We'll definitely figure it out whenever they start laying the slab over the caissons.
Yeah, and then kind of jumping back over to this area, We can see that they've got that pad that is a new one going along right here. It looks to be mirroring what they have here. So they've already put some pipe work on the pipe stands. They're going to do the same thing right here. It's just going to be such a massive fuel farm. It's going to be insane.
Well, I'm wondering if between those 2 rows of pipe stands that are a building, there are going to be another row of tanks.
I think there's tanks going to be here, and then there's going to be tanks in here, and that's all pretty much coming from 39A. These came from 39A.
Well, I think only 3 of the tanks from 39A would go here. The 3 long ones are cryo. We've identified the short ones. They are definitely water surge tanks.
How are they going to fill these tanks up, you think?
One tank at a time with a tanker.
Unfortunately, at this point, yeah, it's all over the road. Poor old Route 4 is just going to get beat to bleep.
Well, I was looking, how would the truck actually get there? I guess they could go underneath it on this picture at the bottom of the frame and drive around for now. The other question I had was, man, how close are the nearest neighbors to Massey's? Is there a annoyance factor or danger factor for residents nearby?
Astro School is the nearest neighbor, and then the next nearest neighbor is Rocket Ranch, which is a couple miles away.
So these are not counting
the fishing camps on the Rio Grande in Mexico.
Yeah, these would be the closest right here. Otherwise, it would be just over to the far right, which would be the Astra site.
Oh, that's fun.
We have a couple of questions. I don't know if you want to go through them right now.
Yeah. Let's dive in.
All right. So the first one's from Senti. It says, does the FCC document say something about Massey's? And did you see the other one that said Starbase is getting a new antenna?
Well, I saw it said test facility. Thomas, did it say Massey's specifically, or
so it specifically refers to in the GPS coordinates that they will give is the Massey's gun range, which is not here. It's the new one. So this is the old Massey's site. I think somebody in California may have hit the wrong buttons, thinking, "Oh, this is Massey's." Yes, it's Massey's, but it's the wrong Massey's.
Yeah, and the other license is the Starship license, which is just the regular 6-month renewal. The only change is they have added one more data link system to the Starship. So that's actually the comms between the ground and the Starship. So that one's pretty much just a pro forma. Hey, we didn't use it yet. We're just going to renew it for another 6 months so we can keep going forward.
By the way, Dave, I can hear it sounds like our stream in the background there. If you could mute it for us, that would be great. Thank you. But yeah, the amount of changes that we're seeing, at least on the Massey site, it is looking like they're requiring FCC licensing just for the signals. And we already have like a cell tower right here, which was predating some of this testing site. It was basically with Massey's and SpaceX where really they needed a cell site. This is a great spot. But we have some, looks like just normal communications for high frequency Wi-Fi. It's like what do they call it?
Point to point.
Yeah, it's point to point, but you don't really even need a license for it because it's in the 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz bands.
Yeah. Quick story. I love that spectrum was given up because it's the microwave spectrum, and your microwave at your home would interfere with it. So they're like, oh yeah, anybody can use it. So everything got developed with that spectrum because it was free for people to play with.
And then isn't it just kind of amazing though at the same time, like how much progress has happened because that spectrum has opened up.
Also, your Wi-Fi could be used to cook your food. Just saying.
Okay, so I've got a little comment here. I don't know if Tom, were you around, Thomas, when Jax pointed out what tank this is sitting here?
Yeah, this is 7.1. It doesn't belong there. So they switched the tanks.
Presto changeo, and it's a new tank by the Can Crusher.
Yeah. So they basically flipped these around. One thing you'll notice is this is the one that was open before over where it was at, and it's still open. We're just like, wait, they moved it like that? Yes, they did.
Is this the one where the bottom of the tank, it had the E-dome and it got blown out?
No, that was the E-dome. That was the test article that was sitting
That was yet another
here.
test article.
But yeah, they scrapped that afterwards, I think. So it's pretty much gone, and it's really the 7.1 that had been sitting there. And we're thinking, oh, they're going to use it for like a water tank or something. No, they're going to put it back on the can crusher and do a can crush test with it. So they're going to put the top hat back on and then pull it down using the hydraulic rams. And they're going to probably test it to maybe failure. I'm not sure exactly why they would test it unless they're going to do a failure test.
And just real quick for anybody new joining who's interested in the basis of like, what is all this for? A lot of the capacity of this new area is for testing and proving that the test articles have the right structure. They will survive the stresses of launch and reentry. And by testing these, they'll know, hey, this stuff can survive. So like they can simulate that by using that thing we're at the bottom, we're calling it the can crusher. That just has hydraulic rams that simulates the force of a launch. And so it's a good way to find out if what you're building will actually survive.
Yeah, so one other thing we noticed is the ring right here was there. That was the one that they had with the test tank over here. I can't remember its name now. Shoot. That's where we need Jax.
6.1.
It's like, oh yeah, it's this. And I want to say it's 7 something, but this is...
No, it's not. It's like 2 point something if I remember right.
I think it's S26.1.
Oh, that sounds right. Yep, that sounds
or test tank 13.
Yes, that was it. Yeah. There's all these other numbers pop in my head. S26.1 is the one that says on the side of it, which that makes sense, I guess.
By the way, if you ever wonder how they ended up with Falcon Booster 1069, this is how these numbers come up. You always wonder why did they name it that? Well, this is how.
We have another question from Benjamin Klein. May there even be booster static fires in the far future at Massey? So the launch site at Starbase is really only for launches?
I think there might be the equivalent of a stress test, where you fill it partially. No, you can't really even fill it completely like a wet dress rehearsal here. You need the capacity of the fuel farm at the launch site. I don't know if we'll ever see a full-fledged booster here. What do you think, Thomas, Dave?
There's that chance because the way they word it in the FCC document that you could see full-fledged boosters for cryo testing. We've got some nitrogen here. These ones are currently labeled as oxygen. The question is when we would involve methane, and we wouldn't do a cryo test and then do a full wet dress rehearsal or something like that. That would just be too much methane. You'd have to close down Highway 4, which it's still a good distance from here, but it's not a situation you want. So static fires, I think that would be still a possible option.
And didn't Elon say that? Didn't he say something about this being where we're going to test Raptors?
He said a rocket test site.
Yeah, he said rockets.
Which, it gives us
Raptors.
It could be Raptors. It could be the Raptors on the vehicles. We could be looking at equivalent of Test Stand C here, which honestly would be pretty fitting considering we have Test Stand C parts here. So it's they could put the stand here, and we could see them go through and use it for starships, static fires, maybe some boosters, and they'd have to put the adapter on to convert that over from let's say a starship connection to a booster connection. You have to change the QD system as well, and vice versa.
Well, I don't know if Zach last week or somebody was saying, well, they could just take a Starship or a booster and put it on a test stand here and use it as a Raptor test bed because, it's already got the tanks and everying. And
that was me, yeah.
That was right before Booster 8 and 22 both met the guillotine.
Well, it's still something that's an option, and I think it's a good idea in the sense that was what Hoppy was going to be. The idea was, well, we can take a current test article and we can use it to do all of our engine tests. So you fill it up, you test it, and you're basically getting a full test of the system as it would be for a ship, and you get to test the engines, which is a really nice way of doing it. Of course, you might want to update the model every once in a while and just pull off the tank, which would be a booster or a Starship tank, and move along to the next one, the next version.
Well, I do see that we still have Test Stand C Charlie steel pieces not being disposed of and right near this build site.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned those earlier, is that it's just like these could be the ones that they stick here. It doesn't mean that they have to be. There's still plenty of options and opportunities for the other items to be appearing in this area.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, Mauricio, do we have any more questions?
For donations.
We have one. We have one from Andy Alder. It says have to close down part of Mexico, let alone Highway 4. I think he's talking about the road closures for Massey's. What that would look like.
Well, it depends on how they're testing exactly. If they're putting just a test like they do at McGregor for just a single engine test, you don't need that, and that would not allow you to do like Starships and stuff on top, because if you're putting a lot of methane above the engines, things could still go wrong. If the engine blows, you could blow your entire test assembly. So that's either going to be like a horizontal stand or a vertical stand like they have at McGregor. So that's probably the direction they're going. But at the same time, it's like those pieces, they scream to me that these would be part of a ship stand. So it's like, okay, we're looking at cryo. That would be the obvious one. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if we're looking at cryo and we currently have oxygen and nitrogen, we might not get any methane at all. The site might just be methane free.
Yeah. Well, no. If they're testing rockets, I think they're going to have methane, but it might be segregated far enough away that it's considered safe and in small enough quantities. Or heck, they might just drive up a methane tanker truck when needed. Going back to the question about Mexico, if they needed to shut off part of Mexico, that would actually have to go through the State Department to make a request to the Mexican consulate to then, send out police, and then they would bill for their time and yada, yada, yada. So that's a very, very rare procedure to do all that, but it's possible.
Yeah, the biggest issue, it's so close to Mexico. I think they're going to have to limit their testing to keep the danger zone to the edge of the Rio Grande.
Would be so cool to have rockets Raptors being test fired here. But rocket testing seems to be the direction that they're going. Like, we haven't seen actual methane tanks or anything that screams methane yet. At the same time, it's like that's what we hope to see. That's what the rumor said. Oh, there's a couple of them probably like going a year back or so. And so it's just one where we're expecting to see something. We don't see it, but the cryo is at least already currently present. It's going to happen for cryo, but whether we see static fires, I hope we do. It's just how close you are and how you set it up is going to be the fun part.
That makes me wonder if anyone will ever set up a small boutique business on the Mexican side where they could take you closer than you can get on the American side.
Yeah, because considering that half the river is Mexico, like the border is actually in the middle of this river. So the right side over here is, or at least the south, is the Mexico side. And then the left or the north side over here would be the U.S.
So getting away from regulations and focusing on engineering for a second, the fact that like at McGregor, that booster stand is so tall, it really makes me wonder why they didn't make the orbital launch mount so much taller so that you don't destroy all the concrete underneath.
That much higher to lift stuff, I suspect, was the issue.
Yeah.
The analysts and stuff have to get up there. While we're doing this, I haven't heard any. Indy, do we have any donations?
We do. We actually have quite a few donations because our crew is very generous. We have a £5 donation from Scat1975 who says, "All aboard, choo choo, let's go, because we're getting on the donation train." 55 Chevy Guy Steve comes in with $20 saying that he's also going to join that train and he wants to support the flying and production efforts that we all do and the expenses. Then Jim Cavett came in with $2 and he says all aboard, on board at 55 Chevy Guy. Starship 3D also became an RGV flight supporter for the first time. Welcome to the crew, Starship 3D. We're glad to have you for sure. Joey Bag of Donuts was kind enough to donate $20 and says, all aboard, the Massey's is the new hotness train. And then at came in with another $2 Canadian dollars and says, greetings from I wrote California, but I think it said Northern Canada. Sorry, my bad. I'm particular to California, apparently. And then Joe Skirt donated €11.99. So thank you all for your generous donations.
Well, it's just because California and Canada both decided CA was their abbreviation.
The Noive.
Well, thank you. You said Scat, Chevy Guy, Joey, and AT.
Yes, I did. 55 Chevy Guy, Scat, Jim Cavett, Starship 3D, who became a flight supporter, Joey Bag of Donuts, at, and Joe Skirt. All donated.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody. That's amazing.
We had another question here, Thomas.
Yeah, let's do it.
It wasn't really a question, but it's by Cyberman. Why don't they fix Highway 4? It needs new pavement bad for all the coming in to work and visit Starbase. I don't know if you can show that image I took from this flyover.
Yep.
Massey.
Here we go.
What are you talking about? You see those orange cones? They're repairing it right now.
Yeah, the problem is it takes them, for every quarter mile, it takes 2 or 3 weeks of single lane operation to get that one little piece repaired. And they've got about 10 miles of road. It's a huge inconvenience to everybody while they're doing it, because that road is so heavily traveled. Going single lane really puts a wrench in everything.
Right now, I feel like would be a great time to just build a new road next to that road and continue operations on the old road, and then completely build a separate highway all the way down.
Well, in about 5 years after we condemn the land, go through all the court cases of the protests, yeah, you might be able to do that.
Eminent domain. No. Governments and regulations and people, and they own the land. They have a right to it. And
yeah, the problem is it's other governments that own much of the land on both sides of this road.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fair.
So, like, the only way you could conceivably make that happen is take some of the shoulder that currently exists and build using what you have on the shoulder, and then work your way over. And they're kind of doing that already, but not to the extent that you're talking about.
Yeah, and the other thing with this kind of soil, if you wanted to make it to spec to hold heavy machinery reliably, you'd have to drill caissons or something, or at least dig much deeper and lay a much firmer bed to lay the road on all the way down. So yeah, it's but I feel that question in my soul every time I drive down that road.
Yeah, I mean the good news is they appear to have done it well in the section of Route 4 between the build site and the launch site, but that meant digging down about 3 feet and replacing everything with good solid road base and then repaving it. Doing that took a week for every 100 yards. I mean, it was insane amount of work.
And not just one time. They had to do it a few times, because we've seen them over the year and a half or 2 years now that I've been watching. We've seen them redo the road several times.
Yeah, but the last time they didn't just repave it; they did the full dig down, and it's been pretty good since then. Out in front of the launch area, and then after they did that, they did the same thing over by the entrance and exit to the build site, and that road is in much better shape consistently now. But the road from the build site back to the border check station is just a pothole city.
Well, right now it's beyond pothole because they've been tearing it all up. Let me explain what's going on here real quick for those who kind of don't understand. So this is currently one lane where you see all these vehicles and work trucks and everything else. This is the lane that they are currently working on. Basically there's a little stoplight right here, and this will be the one lane coming all the way through here, all the way to the bottom over here. This is the other stoplight, so it's pretty automated. They're connected together. So when this one's green, the other one's red, and it stays red for a little bit until it allows the traffic to pass, and then allows traffic to then go from this right lane to continue. But the length of this one little segment here is actually quite a bit. There's
that's about a quarter mile, I think.
Oof. Okay. Still quite
Yeah,
looks like
that's
quite a bit.
And the other, I don't have a copy of the tweet, but there was a tweet from the Cameron County Sheriff's Office. Because of the number of speeders here, they put up a temporary watchtower on the side of the road as an observation post, probably with a radar gun, out near Massey's.
Yeah, the traffic out there is pretty bad. The speed limit's 55, but I've seen people go like 70, 75, 80 when they're rushing to
I was
work.
going to say,
Yeah,
I've seen 80 as the average speed.
I feel bad going 55 on that road. People just come flying past me. I try real careful to follow all speed limits, and man, it's wild out there. And to be fair, there's nobody around. Who would know?
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I can find the that particular tweet, and it's not easy.
It
at the
was
moment.
like a week and a half. Well, I can go dig for it while we're continuing on.
Thanks, Dave.
I think we're 40 minutes in. Do we want to start heading towards Sanchez?
Yeah, this is the last stop before we hit Sanchez. So beautiful views and everything. So the Sanchez site from last week, from the aerial view, we'll kind of go through each of those as well.
Okay. So everybody take a good look at this, because you're not going to see this site again, especially the top part of it. El Rocket Garden got a slight surgery applied to it.
It's just
different
missing
kind of
some
can
rockets. Nothing bad happened.
Yeah. Is it me, or is Gwen Shotwell just not sentimental at all? And she's like, kill it all, break it up.
I don't think Elon's any less sentimental than Gwen is. I think the only beast that has a chance of survival of those 5 is 15.
Yeah.
Right there in the middle.
It's just a lamp. It's just a piece of furniture. It doesn't matter. Throw it away.
Yeah, I wish it was a lamp. Then it would have lights on it. That'd be cool. Be like Hoppy.
And how dare you, Grandpa Joe? They're not just lamps.
But yeah, they've made some interesting changes so far, even from this last week to this week here. So we'll kind of start off here looking at the missing rockets.
What happened?
People were expecting or a few people were expecting that Booster 8 was going to be going in for some upgrades. The upgrades were we removed some pieces and then we started chopping it.
We're making room for real useful stuff, not this garbage that needs to be taken out.
Yeah, so currently what's funny is that Booster 4 is more ancient than Booster 8, and somehow they're sentimentally attached to it because they had so much testing done with Booster 4. And then there's Ship 20 sitting here that was the companion of Booster 4. But these two, I think that they are at risk, but they always seem to want to have just one booster and Starship on display at all times. And even the same thing could be applied to the launch site. They want to have at least one of each at the site at all times as well.
I don't think they care. I mean, it's just being held there, and as soon as they can and fit it in their schedule, they're scrapping those two. 15, I think they're going to preserve for a while, but if nobody wants it and picks it up or something like Brownsville or whatnot, 15 might get scrapped too.
So 15 probably gets scrapped when they get the new version that lands and they can catch it and everything else.
Right.
There's a question for the Rocket Garden here from Benjamin Klein. With the Rocket Garden getting cleared, does that mean they need room there? But for what? A new tower, the deluge system? But I think just more room, right? That's it.
Yeah, we might be seeing some rockets just stationary, like as a holding point, be placed in the Rocket Garden, and those would be let's say Booster 9 and Ship 25. They're not at risk, I don't think. Jax was talking about this the other day too, and I agree with what he was saying. It's like, okay, boosters are going to be sitting here while they're doing the launch. They probably want to keep things away for a bit, and they'll have additional production going. So Elon has said that they will do 5 stacks this year. That doesn't include all the other test articles and manufacturing prototypes and everything else that they're working on. But 5 stacks really means we're going to stack the 5 vehicles and launch them. So it'll be interesting to see how many will appear at the Rocket Garden that will either just stay temporarily and then go take a flight or what.
By the way, the absolute best place to store the boosters and the ships is either in orbit or in the ocean. Just launch them and, test them out in space. And there you go. No more having to worry about where to store them.
We're on Mars. That's the future one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to get there. But in the next year, ocean.
Yeah.
Anybody want to take bets on when they try to catch the first booster?
There's still a chance in my mind that Booster 7 will be one. So they have FCC filings for a while back that was like sometime last year that said they were looking at basically catching a booster, and it was like, what? And Booster 7 would be the one that they'd be looking at testing that theory on. I'm wondering if that's still an option that they're looking at, or if they're going to just dump it in the ocean and then the next one they'll try. So either Booster 7 or Booster 9.
I think they might try, but they're going to bias themselves towards dumping in the ocean if anything goes wrong. And probably just they'll mentally prepare to do that as a first order. And then very doubtful they'll try to catch the first one. But, they might get ready for it and then just not do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a test article to test catching with, you might be able to just drop this on it and see how well it does.
I know. The trouble is cranes do not love dropping stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be very bad on the crane.
Give a new meaning to the word Buckner.
Oof.
Oh, and while we're looking at that, for people who haven't caught up, which booster was that?
That's Booster 8.
Goodbye. You did nothing.
Yeah, it didn't get finished. Like the pipes were still just disconnected. It's a sibling to Booster 7. They're like very closely related. Booster 9 is a whole new generation. So we're expecting good things from that. Oh, and looks like Dave, you got the tweet.
This is the sheriff's tweet about the road and the speeding.
This is their announcement that they have put up an observation tower on Route 4, so we're looking for you.
Nice.
Oh, I recognize this is near Richardson. So this would be like the last stop or the last turn right before you get to Starbase over here.
Yep.
They put one of these up in my town. It got shot so often, and people didn't realize that there was occasionally a person inside of it. So it did not last long.
Well, you do note it has 2 observation cameras on the outside of it, so anybody shooting at it's probably going to have their picture took.
I'm curious why it looks like a funhouse from a circus.
Because it is.
It kind of does look fun.
Yeah, you can't even climb up there. The whole thing has to come down. You get in and then it goes up.
What do you mean you get in and then it goes up?
I mean, like you can't climb a ladder to get inside.
It's like a man lift. You board it on the ground and then it booms up to position.
That made sense. Thank you.
But yeah, there have been a lot of accidents and even fatalities on Highway 4. So if you're vacationing there, be careful.
There was a rollover a week ago. Yeah.
Oof. I remember Mauricio a couple of weeks back, he was talking about an incident. It wasn't his fault. It was like almost an accident. Do you want to talk about that, Mauricio, or should we move on?
I mean, just real quick. I was going to make a left turn. Somebody tried to pass on the left, I guess on the opposite lane, right? And that wasn't quite the place to do that kind of stuff. And the guy almost, as I was making my left turn, he was going to T-bone me, right? So I just kept going into the easement there. But yeah, it was a close call. So yeah, if you're going out there to Starbase, just be precautious out there and drive the speed limit, because especially on the curves, right? Can't really see what the traffic's going on the other side of the curve. So yeah, just be careful out there.
That is scary. Stay safe. The next part's here. Okay, so keep going through Sanchez a bit. Oh, one area, this is still from the Highway 4 here. I saw this and I was like all excited because we had somebody up there, and I realized he's just working on the scaffolding, it looks like. I was so excited thinking they were going to get windows in.
All that scaffolding is just there to install Windows?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And then they have like these safety nets that they're going to have to redo because, well, they've fallen apart because it's been sitting here for so long. And I saw this and I thought, oh, was that a window? And it's Dave, what did you say?
Maybe that's the elevator.
Yeah, that's the elevator. It's like, oh, no wonder it looks so weird. Keep looking for those windows. And
well, if you slide to the right a little further, you will see that the windows are there. Unfortunately, they're sitting in the middle of the floor, but there's right there. There's the big crate of the big crates of windows that haven't even been uncrated yet.
Yeah, that's something I keep looking forward to seeing. But the idea came across last night. Well, what if they're just waiting for the orbital test flight? After the orbital test flight, you see how much you actually get for vibrations and other things. And it's like, if these aren't rated for it, you're going to have to pull them out anyways.
Well, the rumor was this area was going to be Mahogany Row executive and engineering offices.
Yeah.
I think until they get a successful launch, nobody gets rewarded with new offices.
And at the same time, they do need to put in like fire sprinklers and basically fire suppression systems of the office variety. So they'll have to do a lot more work.
Right. Yeah, that hasn't changed in months.
What has changed though recently is we're looking at them reusing test stands, or not test stands, really the transport stands. Yeah,
upgrading and modifying.
Yeah, they're getting beefy. So you can see like down at the bottom, they've got these little triangles in, and they even have like bracing on it. That's the side. Sorry, I think that was.
It's the triangle gussets at the bottom. I-beams on most of the top, and then where the M's were, they have the other gussets in. Yeah, they're definitely beefing this baby up.
Yeah, and they're doing that on this one as well. You can see they've got the same triangles down at the bottom. You call these gussets?
Yeah. So that tells me that this is model number N+1 of this design.
Why not cut to the chase and just make a ring out of pure metal and just leave it be?
Because we like to be able to hand parts in and out.
That's lame.
And be able to move the thing.
Yeah, it might weigh a little bit more. That's true.
You'd have to have a lot of pipe stands. And
I don't think we care about the weight. That just means we don't need as many counterweights on the SPMT.
Good point.
I do like the comparison between the two stands. You can see the modifications. Also the rust, but yeah.
Well, the interesting thing that we've noticed at SpaceX is rusty means new.
Yeah, you're right.
Painted means existent.
Painted and rusty means old.
Yeah.
Really old.
Yeah, if it's bare steel that's rusty, that's what you look for, because that's usually the stuff that came off the stockpile and is being added.
What does that say in the bottom of that corner? Scrap? 6 foot?
SGF 091. So they're marking them. Apparently, this one's the same. The markings on these are exactly the same.
What do you think SGF means? Structural.
It could be the person who has welded it, but I'm not sure why they put 091.
Job number 095.
Oh yeah, okay. So maybe this is not number. This is probably a different number then. Might be 001.
No, I think 091, and this is. I think it's two different operations probably.
All right.
Like each leg may get a number.
Yeah, this is the fun part about having a high definition camera. Is you can really get in there and read all those notes.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of notes, it's like, what did they have happen that they needed to put this out? I know that Texas, like you see in the back of trucks, you'll have a rifle pretty much in every truck. So that's pretty common, but I guess they had something about issues with firearms or something. Hadn't heard anything, but it's just an interesting, odd little bit there. This load spreader, have you guys ever seen it be used for anything?
No.
I was looking at that earlier. No clue what that is.
I just know that it's a load spreader because you've got a pick point here, or at least I assume it's a load spreader. It could be hydraulics or something else for some sort of testing, but got like a tripod with some legs that you can attach here.
Yeah, this looks like it is either under fab or I don't think it's been used because it's missing the essential layer of approval called paint.
Yeah, true. But it's been sitting around for months and months. It's never been used, and it's like, what was the original use case for this? And I still can't really figure it out. It's got a lot of like crossbars and things that
it's very massive.
A ton of weight.
It's very massive.
I mean, you could hold a whole booster with this thing. It's just how.
Yeah, and the flanges on the bottom make it look like it's supposed to have something else bolted to it, and I'm not quite sure what that is yet.
I've seen some pipe flanges like this a while back, and I was thinking, well, maybe this is going to be for 39A, and they're going to ship it off over there, and had some flanges that were similar to this for structural reasons.
Yeah, I mean, looking at its build out, I mean, it looks like it might just be a load concentrator for cylinders or something, like you were saying. And it almost looks like that piece of angle iron on the right-hand edge under the flange is just temporary. That thing, the vertical, is just sort of tacked in there. I don't think that's part of it. I think that's just a support for whatever for construction.
Yeah. It's just an interesting one that I'm hoping we get to see what they use this for. I love all the new stuff.
I don't think they ever. I think it was something that they started and plans changed, and now it's just sort of hanging around.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm trying to figure out what these pieces are for. Have you guys been paying attention to these at all? They've got the eyelet right here. It's like a lift point, but it could be for something else. And it's just like a stand to put stuff on. Maybe these are both connected to each other. I can actually jump back over to the flyover of Massey's here real quick. There it is. And I don't actually see it in here. I was looking for it in this area, but maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot. Do you guys, can you spot it from here?
Is it that thing up by the truck cab, by the stand there?
Over here?
That thing. Yeah, I'm wondering if that might be it.
This one's a bit different. Yeah, so it's a newer item that's come in, and I've only seen the ground photo of it. I haven't seen anything from the air. When you get it from the air, you're like, oh, it's this big and it fits this.
Well,
so
we'll have to wait, hopefully, for the gods of weather to be much kinder to Mauricio next week and not have 3 different cloud decks in below his flight altitude.
Only 3.
And maybe we'll get an aerial flight next week.
And one other thing to notice is this chair. Just and this soda can. It's just like this is their little rest area while they're working.
Hey, pipe stands are useful for many things.
But yeah, I've got it looks like square tubing on that same piece. So this looks like it will get welded onto something else unless this is just stacked in front of it. Sometimes it's really hard to tell. Actually, could I see that on the left one? No, because it's got something in front of it.
Well, there's also that triple I-beam thing between us and all of that. Yeah,
that's unusual too. It's going to take a lot of weight. It looks like it's probably for like transporting boosters or something. Let me go back to that aerial shot one more time.
I mean, it's definitely a custom fab piece. Triple.
I'm just seeing if I could see that as well, and it's not present.
No. Could that be that thing there with the 2 white marks on it right below your cursor?
Oh, in here?
Go down. Right there, that thing.
Oh, it could be. It's about the right thickness, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm looking at height versus cross-section looks similar.
I'm expecting like an I-beam, unless this right here is either just a...
I think that's paint on the top or something.
Yeah, okay, that would make more sense, because I would expect to be able to see through and see into it, and I don't. But what you should also see are these like dashes there. Maybe they're the truck lines or something.
I was just looking for something large and rectangular. That's the only thing that drew my eye.
Sorry, I stepped away. What was that thing?
We're just kind of figuring that out. Okay.
See those have those little bars in there.
So I guess it's just a bit of
might be
shading.
it.
And
Yeah, in fact, scroll to the right a little. There's a rusty one that might be almost. Or is that box beams? Those are box beams. Right under your cursor.
yeah. It's all sorts of mystery objects here. I love it.
Here on the RGV live stream, where we look at random pieces of scrap metal and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
have
that's
high
what we
success
do.
doing such.
I know, we're really good at this. I would, if I were SpaceX, I would train the welders by giving them a plan for a really wackadoodle piece and then just leave it out in the open.
So you mean like art installations?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. And the latest news on this, there is no news.
What is
They're
that?
still
every
sitting on
week.
the same spot on the concrete pad that they've been for the last 2 months.
And I was like looking at these going, are these new? Oh, wait, they're still there. Darn.
They
we've
were
got
really
some rust
important
actually
when they
forming,
were
too.
making them, and they got them made, and they passed the first test because they got paint on them, and now they're sitting there.
What are these?
Good question.
They're basically some sort of blast diverter. So it's not like a flame diverter or anything like that, but at the end of a runway for an airport, you'll see something similar to these. However, they are basically 90 degrees straight up, and then it angles back in. And my only thought on this was that they were going to put them on the wall, and then they didn't. And there's still a lot of other places they could put them. So that's the only idea that would slightly fit still.
And
Mobile flame diverter.
Well, they did put it on the wall on top of the berm for a little while, and then they took it back down. So it was on the top of the berm between the tank farm and the OLM, and then they took it down. Yeah, on the top. They were there for like a brief afternoon.
Oh. That would be news to me. I was expecting that they could go there, and I remember making a drawing of it. So I hope you don't remember the drawing as what it could have been.
I do not.
Oh, good. Okay. But yeah, that's just a strange item. That I love these things, but Starbase is just full of them. And the lonely rocket at least this end of Remedios here. Mauricio, like you were talking about this earlier, how does it really feel to be missing the rockets?
Well, I mean, it looks empty. I even asked my wife, but she was not really following the developments at Starbase. So I'm like, do you notice that there's a rocket missing? And she kind of just like, all right, I don't know.
Because I think you asked something, you said something like that. Do you notice anything different? No. Do you notice the missing rocket? No. It's like, oh, that's great that you actually brought her out. You got to spend some time together. Oh, this is going to be shaping up to be a very interesting tent. So the Sanchez inventory tent is already getting a lot of product in it, and it looks like going to be having shelves, I think, outside, because these look like they're going to get attached together. A bunch of them already have been. So like you can't get this through the door unless you start to take these apart and then lay it down sideways and then roll it in.
Perfect place to store everything right there.
Yeah, it could be flaps, could be boards.
Or bulk steel. Steel sheeting.
Oh, you mean like the tubes of it, the rolls of stainless steel?
I'm thinking like steel tubing, steel sheets, not rolls. These aren't strong enough for that.
Okay.
But cut steel, because they also do get steel in, especially the GSE people get steel plate. What they make all of their stands out of, all the raw steel for all that.
Okay. I'm thinking like the ground fabrication building. It's got a lot of that, so it would basically come to here instead, as far as the shipping and receiving area. And then once the ground fabrication's building, they need some more of that inventory. They can send it over and store it there.
My guess is if this is truly going to become shipping and receiving central, then everything will come here as opposed to coming over by ground fab.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. That's funny. Is you've got UPS here, and then we were looking at it going, there's actually 2 UPS trucks. So they're really utilizing this this payload area, payload deliveries.
Ironically, they're delivering Amazon packages.
That probably does happen.
Jeff
Well,
Bezos.
And the other thing, if you notice that white container right there, that is the
Oh, yes.
20-pound canisters of propane for all the forklifts.
But where are the accessories?
The barbecue is not there.
Wait, so isn't that the Starlink box too behind that white box you just pointed out?
Is it? No, I don't think so.
No, feral
That was
gas.
a
That's
truck.
just yeah, it's the UPS truck, and the feral gas is just
Oh,
a
that's
propane
right.
storage container
But
with open sides, so that if your propane is leaking, you don't get a hazardous concentration.
who doesn't want a hazardous concentration?
But I'm just thinking about it. Like forklifts, they run on methane. I did not realize that was what they were running on. I thought they ran on like diesel.
No, they're either propane or electric.
Okay.
So
I know that the like the scissor lifts are electric.
anything else fun going down at Sanchez?
Let's go through them. So they've been working on this area for a little bit.
Yeah, and then when we get to the next shot, there's a weird thing there, and I haven't figured out what it is yet.
The little angle bracket thing?
Thingy, yeah.
It's a doghouse. It looks very temporary. Oh, that's a canvas over. Yeah.
It ends on both sides like a rubber mat with holes in it, so it can let things air out.
It's the rest of the structure that's definitely like pretty fancy fittings on it.
Isn't this where they're keeping Stumpy while they build him a new cage?
So I'm kind of looking at this and thinking they might be putting on like clean pieces. So this would be the drying mat for things that have been washed. That would be
well, I'm wondering
plates.
if it might be a transport assembly for the under felt for under the tiles. In other words, they cut it to shape and lay it on here, and then they can haul a stack of it around.
I mean,
That's the weird
it's
part.
on wheels, so it's meant to be moved around from place to place. Has little locks on it, but well, what's it nearby? See tubes, nothing flexible that could hang over it.
It's nearby the stock tent.
This is over at Sanchez, right?
Yeah, this is outside the. If you look to the left edge of this, I think that's a whole stack of containers.
And unfortunately, proximity doesn't tell us anything anymore because they'll put stuff in random places and then come back and move it.
That's nothing new, Indy. How long have you known SpaceX?
No.
How long have you known SpaceX?
My point was that proximity does not tell us what it is. That's all my point was.
Yeah, well, that's very true, and it's been true for a decade.
Well, there is things that proximity will tell us the detail of what it actually is. There was that black ring that we were looking at forever, and it's like, oh, that looks like it's going to be a jig for high bay or mega bay, and it's like, no, actually, it was for the can crusher, which is like 40 feet away.
We have a water bottle hiding behind the caster.
7.5 inches. Great. Now we can get the scale of this.
Yeah. So if you look in the background there, there's a whole pile of totes there stacked up, lids open in front of the four-wheeler. The blue one, black one, black one, black
yeah.
one. Black
So this
one.
is just like next to the inventory tent.
Yep.
And so this would probably be for moving around certain types of inventory. It's just like, what?
Well, the only thing I can think of that they have that's fabric light is the felt they use under the tiles.
That's just a really strange shape to make this.
Well, it means it doesn't take up as much floor space because it's folded in half almost.
So going back to what we were talking about earlier from Massey's, this T just sitting there. And the thing that really kind of messes me up is the actually, let me go jump a few more pictures ahead of that. I don't know where it went. should have been with it here. There's a series of additional pipes.
Oh, the one that was in the aerial from that same area would be right in that one. The one with the rigid containers is the side of that tent where the pipes are. Top right, with the rigid job containers.
Oh, there it is.
Yep,
Yeah, I
that
see
one.
it. So that's what I was looking for. Is this pipe right here and this one right here? They do fit that T pretty well as far as the diameter size. But then it's just like these two, they don't fit. And then it looks like they're digging some trenches over here, which makes me kind of worried that what they're actually doing is something about removing water from the site, which doesn't make sense. The concrete culverts, they have plenty of them. Why would they go for cast iron to do that? It just throws me
It
off.
also looks like they're doing a lot of fab of shelving or something on the inside, because we've got an argon tank and a Lincoln welder with their hoses and electric lines going through the windows.
What's funny is, like, I didn't even notice that until you mentioned it, as far as that they're windows that have been opened. They've been cut open and useful as windows, or at least at this point, they're kind of like a breezeway. All the doors seem to be open. So going back, talking about the inventory tent, well, you can now see the inventory it's got in the bins. So they've now have it sorted out into where it's supposed to be going.
I wonder if I know what those bins might actually be.
And those guys come to my local Home Depot for a minute? Just asking.
No, because they don't have orange ends on them. You think those might be tiles?
That could be a tile piece.
Could it?
Could be. I don't know exactly what that is.
That looks like a piece of steel.
But yeah, they're just probably odds and ends. You've got nuts and bolts, and the one thing that is interesting is that each one of these has a label, but it's like, does it actually have the label of what it is? I don't know.
I think
we
it's,
can't
yeah,
see
I
it.
think it. I think it. No, I don't think it's what it is. I think it's a location. So it's slot 1, slot 2, slot 3 down the shelf.
Yeah,
What's
it's
on
got the inventory
bottom
system.
shelf?
The
That's the
pink,
one we have the best chance of seeing. Oh, nothing.
got the floor, and we found some extra inventory just hiding out behind
It
the
literally
lake.
says
pallet.
inventory.
Yes, that's funny.
Well, at least their shelves are bolted to the floor correctly.
That's good to see. I saw somebody like doing a thing at like Home Depot or Lowe's or something where they were using a forklift to bump the shelves, and I'm like, what? They were trying to move the shelving. I don't get it. Okay, so the this piece is still getting ready. They haven't really made much changes this week, as far as we could tell, on this. So this is going to be used for what was it, nose 29, and so we'll see that basically go through the test like nose cone 12 or Bob that we called it, and that'll be pretty interesting to see. The craziest part is this is the newest element, where they're going to be pulling down, I think, hydraulically from this point. It doesn't make sense to put a lot of pressure on this, considering like this little post of square tubing. It can take some weight, but it'd be really good at pulling instead of pushing. And most of it's all over here anyways. And then people keep asking what these are. These are the safety straps, so you don't fall over the edge. And so this is like a seat belt that stops you from going too fast.
Retractable safety lanyards.
Okay, so this is the view of inside of Mid-Bay. I got nothing.
Mid-Bay.
I think it now has something in it from what it had yesterday.
Ship 27 was there, and then they rolled it out, and they put the truncated nose cone into Mid-Bay. I guess maybe they'll fit the pressure test article on it.
Yeah, it could still be there because we can't see the back right corner.
Yeah, I could. It's just kind of interesting. So empty looking. So earlier we were talking about the stuff at Massey's and let's say doing booster tests. Let's say on a test stand that like test stand C, you would have to use this type of article. I've called it a couple of different things, but it basically transfers from a ship mount to a booster mount, and this would have to be redone in order to make it work.
Well, the big thing is it gives you the additional height because on a booster, the Raptors hang out below the mounting plane, and on a ship, they're up inside. So you need a lot higher support point for a booster on a test stand than you do for a ship on a test stand.
Yeah, and you can only do the inner 13 engines. You can't touch the outer 20. So kind of interesting to think about that part. And oh, that just looks so naked now. I was hoping to drive down there or fly down there and check out all of the starships. And now we've got 15, which I've seen. And now that actually I see it, I wonder if you could spot the labels. There was some writing on this area that I was trying to get pictures of forever, and it never worked out.
We spent way too long looking for those labels.
Yeah. I'm like, I need the right focus. I need the right lighting. And I never got any of it. Then it took a flight and it was pointed in the wrong direction. All right. So let's actually jump over to the build site.
Paging jacks.
Yeah. It's always great to have Jax around to help us guide us through the build site and what's going on. So the door is closed. We don't have any news there. So that's unfortunate. But one thing that we were talking about yesterday is these engine covers are really looking rusty, and the birds are making nests out of them.
Oh my goodness. Caught in the act. Yeah, but they're single-use rocket covers, so what's the matter?
Well, they're single use now, but in the future you don't want to see this. You want to see the covers be completely clean and useful, and of course they'll be dirty because they'll be used over and over again.
Yeah, in my mind, just add a little chrome or moly to the alloy, and you'll get a lot less of that.
Yeah, forever I thought these were some sort of ceramic coating on it. Nope.
It's just Rust-Oleum.
Just Rust-Oleum or some sort of paint that bleeds the rust through.
Actually, Rust-Oleum might have been better. Maybe they should try powder coating it.
Yeah, and then the other area we noticed was the it looks like flap covers. So that's cool to see these from the side profile.
Flap covers, like covering the flaps on the side?
For the ship, I think. So yeah, these are pretty big.
Is that like the inside of the flaps?
It would be the coverings for the flaps. So this would go against the ship. And then you'd have the other side, I think, be the part that rotates, if I'm looking at this right.
Oh, like the interface between the ship and the flap?
Aren't those the shines?
Yeah, those should be the chines.
That
for the booster?
Sense. Yeah, I see the chines now. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yes,
I think.
Booster.
All right. Well, there's some crow for me, and I've got plenty of crow up here to help me out. Actually, those are not crow; those are Greckle.
So has there been any development on the Star Factory expanding? Have they been moving stuff out or getting any closer to that?
It hasn't really changed too much. The biggest news was what they had was the. Let me actually bring up a aerial shot of that real quick. Should actually have it here. So this area right here, this is before Christmas. All of this was appearing. This is basically the start of the addition to Star Factory. And we're expecting to see more of it, but it hasn't appeared, and it's just kind of stagnated. So the big one is once we see a lot more of this start appearing, we'll probably see the tents completely empty out, and 1 and 2 will probably go away. Then they'll go after 3 once they build up the building here. So it'll be basically 3 separate buildings, but then they'll connect them together. So that'll be quite interesting.
Nice. So about a year ago, I made a little Photoshop of like where they would put Mega Bay number 2. So where do you think they would put that today if they erected another Mega Bay out here? Replace Mid Bay or put it in the scrap area?
The scrap area would be a good spot. It's pretty close to the current Mega Bay. Mid Bay is still somewhat useful, but it's weird. It's like Low Bay is more useful than Mid Bay. Mid Bay is just an area you can store things out of the wind for a bit that are pretty tall. Like that's all it does now. And if it's in the way, they kind of put it here. If it's too tall, they can't stick it here. They'll like put it in this little pad if they can, depending on what it is. So that's an area that you can clamp things down and bolt them down to the ground. And then all of these, actually, you can bolt things down. So you can see, like right here, they've bolted that down. But I think that would be a good spot for the second mega bay if they're going to put it here.
What do you think, Dave?
I don't know, but I was going to comment that we did see a bunch of dump trucks leaving with broken up concrete from build site this week, and what they were pulling concrete from, nobody knows.
Oh, do we see any new places? Any Oh, well, no, that's
This
an
area has been like this, but I wonder if they've been pulling up
We'll need to wait for the next aerial.
Yeah, but I wonder if they're pulling up areas around here. So it wouldn't be concrete that necessarily. And you're sure it was concrete you saw being pulled out.
Yeah, it was jackhammer concrete.
Well, anywhere you see concrete is fair game at this point. All right, let me jump back to where we were at here. So the new area, you can actually see the wall is in place, at least for the studs, and you can see the current building or the existing wide bay, the backing there. But yeah, they're probably just put drywall there. The coolest part is actually jumping ahead a little bit. We have ourselves the crane already in there, and they've painted it. So it used to be yellow, now it's white, and I was missing that. I was like, wasn't it always white? No, it was yellow. You can even see right there the area that was covered, and you can even see the paint where they've covered it up on the bag. So that's nice.
This is a little, what do you call it, a bridge crane?
Yeah, this would be a bridge crane.
Yeah.
So yeah, this would be, we're thinking Raptors. Like, they're heavy enough, they're big enough. A bridge crane would be perfect for that job. So now you can do all your testing in here instead of tent 1. So they're moving, I think, that stuff into this tent or this back area, and then it will have 2 holes in the wall. I think there was another picture that showed that.
By the way, everybody, look at all the fun you get as a subscriber to RGV. You get access to all these photos.
Yeah, so I think we've got how many photos right now?
Like
290, yes.
Oof.
So if they get Raptors moved here, that eliminates a big tenant from tent A, which means then they can get ready to remove tent A.
Yeah, so that's going to be something we're going to be watching for. It's going to be crazy how, as much as they can, they want to use tent A and B because they're big open spaces. They'll keep using them until it's time to move house. And we've seen some of that over the past months where they've cleared out the big stuff. The factory basically has moved all into what currently is the first section of Star Factory. And we're just waiting for the rest of it to start moving along as well. And the question is, I guess now, once they have done the first 5 launches and they have a large period of time between that and basically the next of the year rolling around, is that really when we're going to see the factory being built while they're basically just sitting there twiddling their thumbs a bit, building parts out of Star Factory, but tents A and B no longer have any usefulness? That's another way to kind of look at it as far as scheduling.
We have a couple of questions that we might be able to go over here. There's one from David Gracie. What is the latest on completion of the mega base scaffolding section at top? I think you all answered that earlier.
Yep. Answer is after we land.
And so far it's after we land, but I'm just wishing we saw something, and so far there's nothing.
And then there's another question here by Brian Mando. I think the strategy is to stockpile 5 to 6 full Starship stacks, and while testing or launching them, they replace the tents 1 to 3 with Star Factory. What do you think?
I think that's what I just was talking about a moment ago. So that's a perfect alignment of ideas. Dave, do you agree, or do you have other ideas on that? Dave?
I think it's probably not going to be 5 sets because Elon sort of hinted that that's probably going to be their entire production this year, would be 5 complete stacks. But I suspect it might be get 1 or 2 ahead and then take down a tent and take a couple of months to build up a chunk of Star Factory. Personally, I think they're going to take down tents 1 and 2 first, leave tent 3, because tent 3 is special tent for nose cones. It's got the extra height. And the part of Star Factory that's going to replace tents 1 and 2 is the part of the Star Factory that will have the extra height.
Perfect. Thank you. Grandpa Joe, any other ideas on that?
I'm sorry, I caught the tail end of the question.
So the question is basically that they will they wait until they're done with the 5 launches and production units they will do this year before they remove tents 1 and 2.
Oh no, they're going to go they're going to change the factory while they're still producing parts, and so much of this is just cover and flat areas and machine areas that are already recreated in Star Factory Segment 4. So yeah, 1 and 2 can start getting moved out, torn down, and no, they're going to still be able to keep their production cadence, replace the factory, and then just ramp up their cadence like crazy.
That's also a really good idea. Go ahead.
So there's a question by James Wilson. Will we ever see a stack in the rock garden? And I think the answer is no, right?
I would never put one there.
Why not? No.
I would tend to agree. I'm like unanimous. I'd say no. I don't. They'd have to build something other than a transport stand to sit them on to support a full stack.
It'd have to be like a little more mini orbital launch mount just to hold it all in place and have a lot of counterweight to do that. That would be quite something. You'd have to go deep down into the ground, and that would be another part of it.
Any other questions, Mauricio?
There is one more, but it's on Massey's. I'm not sure if you guys want to go back to that. But so the reverse osmosis plant at Massey's means vertically integrated drinking water for Starbase. That's a question from Gizmos Electronics.
So that plant originally started out at Sanchez. And all those tanks used to live in the corner of Sanchez by Route 4 and Remedios. Back in the good old days when there wasn't as much happening at Sanchez. And then I don't remember if it was right but when they bought Massey's or maybe even a little before, they got an agreement and they put this area in and they moved over all that water equipment here. And so all of the water, I'm not sure if it's the potable water that the county's bringing in that comes in from the county utility district, but certainly all of the water they're spreading to comply with their dust abatement requirement is coming from this facility.
Yeah, from what else we've been able to determine is that it seems that these trucks that are not just the ones that are coming in to basically remove dust, so they spray the water on the ground, kind of like how it's here. A little bit of mud is better than dust being kicked up everywhere. But the thing about the trucks that are for basically bringing in water that's drinkable water for all the homes and other areas around in this facility is it seems like they are bringing it in from here, and it is Cameron County's the one doing it as far as the trucks, which would also comply with some regulations. So it would basically be they set this up, but it's being like leased to the water district itself, or having some weird way of doing it. So the water district is getting the water from here. So the water district would be still in charge of this as the top, because there are international treaties about the Rio Grande River and removing water from the river. So I hope that answers some questions. It probably does bring up some more, though.
Yeah, that's all the questions I have. I don't know, Indian Star, if you have any donations on your end.
I do actually have some donations. I have, again, quite a few because we have very generous people who listen. First one is from Jack. She donated 11 euros and she says, late for the train, but following the pump lorry again. So pump lorry is the train. 55 Chevy Guy Steve donated $5.02 and he says 2 cents more for GPJ's theory on the 20 hole thing. 20 hole ring. Then Sharpie donated $10 and says, as usual, thank you for bringing us all the tidbits. Thank you for bringing all the tidbits to us. Then Ed Astra donated £2 and says, can't wait for the next wet dress rehearsal, whenever that is. Jim Cabot thinks he's very funny and donated $2. Thank you, Jim Cabot. I am Nate Z donated $10 and says, go Jews playing money for RGV. Yazadi came in with $10 and says, keep Mauricio in the air. Rocket Profit with $10 says, choo choo for the fuel. And those are all the donations so far. Thank you guys all so much.
Thanks, bud.
By the way, I did find that photo I was looking at for earlier. This is the area that they would bring in the engines, I would suspect. So thank you for all those donations. That is always great that everybody's jumping on that train. It really helps out Mauricio and making sure we keep him flying. Actually, there's a couple other pictures I'm realizing that are from Sanchez that we skipped over. Is there anything that we want to jump into if we have any questions over, or are we good on the questions as well?
We're good on the questions right now. We did get one more donation from John Docker. Gas money, fly safe, choo choo. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mauricio.
All right, and then there's a correction on this. It should be Booster 10 is what this is. Because Booster 8 apparently didn't get its fins. The funny part is where it's marked on the map is saying Booster 8, but it's not. And that also explains why it looks so shiny. It's brand new.
I was thinking they had stacked Booster 10 a little bit more than that.
What's funny is that everybody keeps saying or knows that it's Booster 10 because it's so shiny.
Yeah, thank you, Maxq, for updating us on that and correcting me. But yeah, that is so good looking. Now we've got the test article in the back. This is the shipped aft skirt. It's
how many welds can we get on one piece of metal here?
When is there more welding rod than there is base steel left?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think about this. Like, there's about 100 of these stringers, or 80 something stringers. I would say probably in the tens of thousands of welds.
I almost honestly feel like they would have been better off going to like 6 mil steel rather than 4 mil. I mean, with that many welds, just on this section.
Well, this allows it to. This is for the test article here, but the stringers underneath, yeah, it is kind of interesting. It's like structurally, it gives a lot more strength without as much weight, but it does increase the amount of time in the factory. And so it's like you're looking at payload mass or simplification of the vehicle, and they chose payload mass. I don't know that
you're saving that much mass by having the stringers.
Well, yeah, you probably are, because this is actually a lot stiffer than even 6 or 8 millimeter steel would be. I mean, you're effectively getting the stiffness of that total thickness of the rib. So yes, this is much stronger than it would be going to thicker steel, but it's a lot of extra work.
Yeah, one thing that you can still have happen with it is that the welds along here, if it buckles, it will pull away very easily from the tank section here. This is the aft section of what would be a rocket, but it obviously is a test article. This is all for the testing that they're doing.
I'd like to say that Hoppy was 12 millimeters and Hoppy was best.
Yeah, I've got some 12.5 millimeter steel with me from SN11. It was just a little hook on the side of it that I found on the road. I'm like, oh, but yeah, the thickness on that is crazy. Okay, so we're looking at it from Remedios, and this is an interesting view. You don't get that often. Thank you for taking this. Like you can see this would be the Stargate building here. And then also we've got mid-bay being very empty. Oh, that's so weird. Like I don't remember this being part of the Stargate building, but it makes sense because I think that's the area that's the launch control center over here to the far right.
That's the original Stargate building, and I think the piece you're looking at here was actually in the first edition.
That sounds about right. Massive lights for the parking lot too, and security cameras and everything. But the
lights look very big there. They're the same one we see all over the site that look much smaller when they're on bigger buildings.
Yeah, there was a whole story about the LED lights that we've seen everywhere. Do you remember you talking about that a while back? How basically they were very cheap, and the reason they were cheap?
Yeah, apparently there was a series of these lights that was made in China that were sold to stadiums, because that's what these actually are, and they were dimmable, and apparently the dimming system on them had life issues, and they all failed to perform to specification over some period of time, so they were all replaced. And so there was a glut on the market of these used stadium lights, and as SpaceX's want to do, somebody made a deal.
We don't seem to see these dim that often, so
they're just on off as far as I know.
Yeah, works for them. All right, so you also took a jog out to the mud flats here, Mauricio. Wow. So how is it every time you've gone out? How is it this time comparatively to how it normally is?
It wasn't too bad except for the mosquitoes. So that was the only thing. But aside from that, I mean, I got a good workout when I go out there. And I think 55 Chevy guy asked earlier, how long does it take me to get all these shots? And it takes about around 3 or 4 hours total because of Massey's. So I want to say it's closer to 4 hours to get all these shots.
I'm not sure why, but it's out of order on the other mud flat pictures I saw. It should be down here. Well, I'll just keep going.
Yeah, I saw a new downcomer there. Any? And how's Ship 26 doing? Still just hanging out there? No tiles, nothing fun.
Pretty naked.
And that's Ship 27 with no tiles and no flaps?
I think that's 22 that they're disassembling. If I'm looking at that right.
If it's got forward flaps and no aft flaps, that would be 22.
I'm not seeing any flaps at all on this one.
That would be 26.
No, 26 has flaps, I think.
Nope.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
It's tileless. Yeah. 26 is the tileless, flapless wonder.
Yeah, we were always thinking that it's going to be for HLS or in like maybe the orbital depot for HLS, or even like we're going to transfer fluids between the header tank and the main tanks. It's like, wait, that last one, you could do that with any of these ships.
So the one on the right is 22. The one on the left is 26.
Yeah.
Got it. I was in my mind, 26 had been on the right for so long. It was still there. I forget these things move around.
Oof. It's looking a bit rough there.
Somebody take a sledgehammer to this thing?
Maybe they're pulling it apart at this point. I can't tell if the crane is... Oh, wait, the crane's right here. Never mind. So they haven't hooked up the crane to it yet at this point.
No, they've got a load spreader underneath the crane.
Yeah, right there.
So that was, I think, for picking up a tank, not a nose cone.
Yeah, there's the tank being picked up.
So what's next for Ship 27? Where's that guy at? It was in the mid bay, and then I think they moved it to the high bay or to mega bay. Where's 27 at now?
The nose cone is in front of mid bay for 27, according to Jax's map here from the Ring Watchers, where 27 is basically in two pieces, one in mid bay and one out of mid bay.
Great.
So that's the latest I can see on that. But they were doing some robotic welding here. I remember him talking about that. I'm not sure which section this is. Was this for 27 or for ship 27?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to defer to the non-present Jax for the answer to that question.
Jax, if you're there listening, we could always use you.
What's the question again? I'm sorry. Not that I'm Jax, but I'm curious.
Which ring section is that in underlift?
Yeah, this ring right here. I'm looking around trying to think about it, and it's like, is this 27s?
If that's off of the turntable in high bay, it is ship 27.
Okay.
And that would be the answer.
I'm doing my best Jax impression. Do you
Thanks,
see my
Jax.
smile?
I can hear it.
That's all that
And
matters.
We have all sorts of interesting pieces here.
Yeah, well, the best part is we have a nice label. So this bottom section, they call it puck.
Hockey puck.
Yeah, hockey puck.
And transfer tube.
Yeah, so this would be the transfer tube and hockey puck.
And do you think the transfer tube looks enough like a screw yet?
I don't know what kind of screw this is. It's got 3 holes, and it's a weird type of screw, and it doesn't actually go in the way it should. It looks more like a nail. I don't want to see that one get nailed. So this was like, my goodness, there was a ship number on this that Jax was talking about. Let's see here.
There was a ship number on the downcomer?
I think there was.
It says booster, and it says if you go in closer, it tells you what part of the booster.
It's landing tank 33 engine booster.
Okay, so it doesn't have the actual number for which one it is, the serial number, or
No.
so it's not referring to a ship or booster. Okay. But yeah, this would hook up to the LOX downcomer right here. Or I'm sorry, the LOX header tank. Wow. But the reason I keep thinking ship is because this is behind it. That is for a ship. That is the thrust puck. So this is the inside, this is the outside. And then these plates right here, they come off. They've got little tubes on them. It's just to protect the rest of it. Now, this was actually a big one. Like, what's with these pipes here? Let me see if I've got another view of those. Perfect. So these pipes right here, there's like 10 of them. So we got 3, 3, and 3 with one on top. So that would be 10. And they look to be about 20-degree bends. So I'm wondering if this is for the like launch table or something like that. Because there's about 10 sides, and it would about fit, but it's kind of different. Could be for a lot of other things.
Could be that. Could be for the launch table where we never see it again because it's inside.
Yep.
Ooh, notice what that job box behind those pipes says.
Radiation area. So that's probably for their film testing for all of the welds.
Yeah, probably a radiation. Yeah, there's probably a radio cobalt or whatever radio source there.
Do a little weld testing.
Yeah, we might guess.
Probably some additional AC units. So I can't see the big one that should be right here, but we've got 2 small ones now.
Well, Thomas, it's about 1:40. You want to sneak on down to the rest of the, or to the other side of the Star Factory and head down to the build site for 2?
Yep. So I'll kind of jump through these pretty quickly here. I've got the gantry crane at
the gantry crane on rails that is in the transport stand assembly area that we've seen them working a bunch on new stuff from the aerials last week.
Yeah, we were kind of wondering about if they're the stand that they have, it's going to be rotating. It has a motor system to go with it. We're wondering if these might also go with that. So we'll see. potentially. We will see or we will not see, depending on what we get as far as photos.
Hey Thomas, I don't know if you talked about that camera. They've been installing some new cameras out there. And
No, that's towards the end here, but I can jump to it if you'd like. So we've got the nice FLIR right here. So this will pretty much be for security because it's a forward-looking infrared camera, and it's actually the brand name as well. So that's kind of neat. But the thing is it can see for some of these cameras up to like 5 miles, depending on weather. But like that is going to be able to see like this one's looking down Highway 4 for traffic coming in and out. And Dave, I looked at this and I'm like, why does it have an LED system with the camera? It's kind of odd.
Because that's what's stock with the camera, even if it doesn't make sense in this application.
Okay. It's like this application would be what, like 20, 30 feet off the ground? No, this is quite a bit more. It's about what was it, 80 feet for the mid bay?
Yeah, something like that. Well, and it's on a PTZ mount, so it could be used for anything. And it's got their really nice microwave telemetry link there on the little mast.
I think that was it for that particular camera, but they are one thing we'll kind of go through and look at is, especially when we get to the build site, there is a lot more cameras. Things are changing quite dramatically there, so keep an eye out. Let's see if there's anything else to go over. I mean, I'm not sure which parts are which here. I can tell this is the top forward section of a booster. It's probably booster 12 or...
That's going to be, that's a Jack's question. I'm not even going to try to hazard it. And then we're heading over towards the payload processing area.
Yeah, I like to call this the integration site. But yeah, payload processing, any of those will work. The cool part is like they are moving crazy over here. Can I show the image from Chief?
Do you have Chief's image? We had an escape this week from Tent 2. The Starlink transfer box made a run down the highway back to its little hut, and it was actually pretty impressive because the SPMT came driving up, and the door was closed. And like right as the SPMT got there, the door popped open. They not so speedily got the SPMT with the box inside the building. And as soon as the box was inside the building, the door started coming down like on top of the SPMT. And fortunately, while that happened, Chief from What About It was on site in exactly the right spot and got these amazing photos of the inside of the building. Now, go back one shot.
Look at that.
That's a lot of Starlinks.
So, remember we were all talking about the metal semicircular piece that might have been an adapter ring for this? Well, it doesn't look like they did anything with that while this was hiding in Tent 2. So as far as I've heard, nobody's come up with a good conjecture of what they were doing to this while it was on its trip back to the build site. But when it got back to the payload processing building, the door came open and we got to look inside.
Yeah, what's funny is that at this around the same time that they're dealing with moving this around, there is another piece. I probably have to go back to look for it real quick. But that adapter that you were talking about that would go with it happens to be being moved around in one of Mauricio's shots.
Yeah, we would really expected that to all get put together and come back out assembled. And when it came back out, I was watching this whole video stream.
Yeah, here it is. Here's the round part of the segment of this. This would go up against the Starship here. I'm like expecting to see this be attached to it, and nothing happened.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, and real quick for credit, so as long as we were showing it, that was Kevin Randolph with What About It Media, and he has a nice little YouTube channel, I believe called the What About It No Comment. And that's all run by the What About It channel and Felix. So give both of them a follow. They have great shows, and they do little content and about rockets. So go Team Space.
So now go 2 more photos forward. Not that one. Anybody want some Starlink Mod 2s?
So real quick, they have 3,400 in operation flying around right now in outer space or in space.
Of the little ones.
Of the old ones that could handle what, like how many people at a time could they handle? Like 1,000 maybe. So I know they have 1 million people online right now. So maybe 10,000, maybe 100,000. So these are an order of magnitude more capable of coverage area, transmitting data. They even have a cell service they can provide through T-Mobile. Yeah, these things are going to be a game changer, but look how many they're planning to launch. And hell, these are just the testing ones. They haven't even really started building them yet.
And look at all those interesting red tags hanging down through the shelving. Go to the left, Thomas.
Yeah, so these are the remove before flight, and there's a cap on it. And I've taken some other looks at other things, like from Tim Dodd's interview with Elon, the second time he's gone. At the beginning and the very end, you can see the Starlinks. And so these are the short side right here. And then this would be the long side right here. And this is, I had to go through and look at it a couple of times to really confirm, but this is just one Starlink right here. So the entire thing is one. And we've got 18 here and then 15 here. So that's exciting to see how many we've got. At first, I thought they were looking at Starlink right here and a Starlink right here, but this is actually the center piece right here in the middle. So the areas right here, this would be the thruster. So they've got thrusters on all 4 corners. And then the black piece right here looks to be the rail that it will be used to guide it for, or maybe it's the side right here that's going to be the rail. It's kind of hard to see without going through and doing some more photos. But I went through, this is the super image resolution version of it. It was such a cool photo to see. But yeah, this is all taking place over at the integration site.
Can't wait to see those things start getting deployed, man. So that'll be at least ship 26 at the earliest, 27, 28.
It'd be, I think 27, I think was the next one that has the actual payload PEZ dispenser. That's the full-sized payload PEZ dispenser. And hopefully they don't cover up the plates on that, and they just fix whatever problems that they might have had with 24 and 25 with 27.
Install more stringers. In fact, install stringers on the stringers, and we'll be good. Hey, what's that?
So this is something we talked about a few weeks back. It's a really cool item, but this is to pick up starships.
Yeah, I had forgotten about it, and I saw it, and I go, what the hell is that? What are those pins for? And then, oh yeah, those will go into the starship.
Yeah, so this is one of the pins that goes in, and I think this is just a manual test article here. But what we can see that they've changed is they've put on some, looks like a bit of padding. So if it bumps into the ship, it adds a little bit of squish to it. These are like rubber mats.
Oh.
But the funny thing is that there's a piece that is like a horseshoe that goes right here. So this sticks out. So that would make it part of like the horseshoe shape. And I was expecting that they were rubber, at least based off what I could see from the outside, but it was covered in plastic. And now that we've seen the inside of it, it's like, oh, actually, this might not be what I thought it was. So let me go back to, I think it's this part right here, or this one right here, actually. So this is definitely not rubber. This looks like steel. It's like some sort of counterweight or something else. I feel like it had an idea that might be for alignment or some other things. So there's holes on it that would allow for.
He was talking about when they lifted the chopsticks, they used some 3-hole toggles to tie the various lift lines together, so they were asymmetric. Something like that could be. This thing's massive.
Yeah, I was just thinking like counterweight if it's going to be anything, but that's because it's going to be offset as far as some of the weight. But then it's like, this is the line right here and the line right here, and it's trying to like offset this or something. That is kind of odd. But yeah, it's going to be the best piece, I think, if they can remove the lift points off of the Starship. So I'll just briefly show you what those are. So if they can remove or reduce the amount of weight that these are increasing the ship, it would be worth it. So right now the lift points would be from here underneath the flaps. So on both sides there's 2 pins that you put it in, and this would basically reach around from the back side, this side, to grab onto the ship. I think that was it for actually the rest of it. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump on to the launch site.
Yay, everybody's favorite part.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
Well, if you weren't here last week, Grandpa Joe, note around the OLM and the OLIT, there is nothing on the ground.
Oh my goodness, it's clean.
For once, yeah. Except what is this? Somebody left something behind. I don't know what that is. There's like toolboxes.
So I was actually just rewatching all of the static fires in the last 6 months and watching all the debris flying. And man, they left some stuff out there.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and going, we're probably looking towards a static fire soon, and they're only doing wet dress rehearsals. It's like, I guess they don't want stuff getting blown up.
So with that in mind, yeah, I'm looking at the, what do you call it? The protective sheeting on the tower. And yeah, no, it's there on those 2 sides facing it. So
yep.
I wonder if they're going to go all the way up before the orbital launch.
I hope so, but who knows?
It's like they're leaving this open because they feel like they might need to pull stuff apart and like put pipes in because they might need to replace something or do something else because things are very fluid.
At least put protective on the 5th level where all that integration stuff is happening.
So something to think about is the area that is clad is going to have high impingement when the engines ignite, because it's going to be coming out horizontally from underneath the OLM. As soon as the Starship starts going up, it's going to be switching to coming almost vertically straight down with very little sideways dispersal.
Good point.
So it may be that there is a height, and I don't know if 3 levels is going to be enough, that there is a height where there's relatively low risk of horizontal flame and debris coming sideways out of the rocket.
Wait, Thomas, keep doing the thing with your mouse so we can see what it looks like. There you go.
But yeah, I wish I had the drawing tool that would work full screen. But the funny thing is we do already have plenty of these pieces available at Massey's. So there's pretty much enough for covering the tower, or at least these 2 sides of the tower, if nothing else. One thing that we'll also want to take a quick look at here is this area right now.
It's just a dirt square. What could
not
possibly
anymore.
Yeah, things have changed on that. So keep an eye out on that as we go through the pictures. Let me go ahead and jump right in.
This aerial is a week and a half old.
Yeah. So comparing that to now is going to be an interesting jump.
And when was this photo taken? Was this yesterday?
These are all yesterday's pictures for the ground shots.
Nice. 25.
So last Thursday or Friday was the aerial, and then yesterday was this week's grounds.
Yeah, and Ship 22 rolled out on Tuesday the 17th. Oh, sorry, 25.
Tuesday 22 rolled out recently as well, but it was to be scrapped.
It didn't roll very far.
Yeah. So one thing that is great to see is that they have the lines already installed here on Ship 25. These are the basically engine chill lines. So they would go down, and then the booster has the area that would connect directly to them to basically deposit all of the engine chill below everything else. So the valves and the grid fins, and just make sure you're not messing all of that up. But that was kind of one of those things that I wanted to look at. I really do want to look at the inside of the legs, but still the tarp is in the way and the berm's in the way. So we'll see later probably the next couple of months or weeks.
Well, the berm has been under heavy construction this week. The long arm excavator has been resculpting it.
Yeah, you can see it's been disturbed up here quite a bit. It's been lifting it up and, yeah, you could say sculpting it. Oh, wow, that's a really good shot. Those pins I was talking about. There is so much weight in what they're putting in here just to hold the whole ship. They do need some structural elements because this does connect into their COPVs, which they've got about a dozen of them. It's still in this area. Those COPVs are going to be used for all sorts of pieces, but one of them is funny. Is like we were asking the question, like, what are they going to use to pressurize the nose cone section and the barrel below it for cargo, because they want to slightly pressurize it during launch. And it's like, well, they have the COPVs ready here. They used to be for at least the dozen that they had were for RCS. Now they might have even less now. The question is, until they open up a current ship model, like let's say even 22, actually, no, it'd be 24 and above would have the newer variety. So we don't know exactly. We'll never know unless they they show the destruction of ship 24 after it lands in the water and partially blows up or something.
The other thing I noticed is they didn't paint the ship 25 anywhere on here.
Oh, not yet. You're right. It doesn't have the cool paintwork.
No livery or livery or whatever it is.
Yeah, they went through on 24 and made it nice and smooth as far as these edges instead of being jagged, and had that nice, 24 on that one. Then this would be 25.
They had a SpaceX logo.
Yeah, that was so cool to see that happen. We were all excited and expecting to launch any day now. Only 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah, 25 it's got its payload doors covered as well. It doesn't say that you can't open the door internally and still play around with that mechanism, at least even in space. So that would be a good, useful test for 24. When
actually, they have drills. They've drilled holes through the door and then attached this plate through that door, binding them together. So now, I don't think you can move that door after it's been unioned that way.
These the plate here and the one with the hole are separate. There's the holes itself will allow pressure to go from one side to the other.
But what they did do was block up the sides, because normally we could see in on the edges, and we can't anymore. They've firmed that all up.
Yeah, they've changed that. You said on the sides,
yes,
they've changed this structure as well, like how they're doing this part before they put on the plate.
That is what I'm referring to.
Perfect. Yeah, the question is like,
welds.
Yeah, the question though is like, are they going to do this part, not this part, I hope, on like ship 27? So extra strength and ship 27 payload deployment area, it would be perfect for the Pez dispenser.
But mind you, we saw a barrel, I think it was last week, that had like the HLS opening, or indicative of what the HLS opening will look like. So I don't know if that's just a prototype or if that's part of 27 and maybe they're making a different type of starship. Who knows?
Oh, I would have to go through and look at that image. I'm not familiar with another one that has an opening that would be for HLS.
I shall get it
That's
for you
exciting.
right now, sir.
Thank you.
We have a couple of questions here. One of them here from Santi. Have S-24 and S-25 both had alterations to the aft skirt after test tank 26.1 failure?
Repeat the question?
Have S-24 and S-25 both had alterations to the aft skirt after the test tank 26.1 failure?
That's not a question I would be able to answer. I think Jax would be the perfect one to answer that one for you. Unfortunately, he's not here.
And who said 26.1 failed? Do we know that for a fact?
I don't know if it failed either. I never saw it have problems. I mean, they moved it over at Massey's, so it's sitting off to the side now. So it was tested. I don't think they tested it to failure or had any failure with it. I didn't see any issues even from the drone shots that would say, let's say, stringers separating or anything like that. So Starship 3D posted a couple of things. I'll grab those, actually. They were talking about the inside of the tanks of the vehicle.
Pulling up Starship 3D's render, you said?
Yeah, I'm going to drop these in because he posted them. It looks like they're really detailed as far as what we're looking at. So it's not just a dozen. There's only like 6 of them here on this view. So they've decreased the number of the COPVs inside.
You can't see in the mass view. The second view, there's actually 10 of them.
Oh, wow.
So there's 3 hiding. There's the other 4.
Okay.
So it's five pairs and then a missing pair where the downcomers are.
One of the nice things about having the COPVs and the header tanks up there is it helps to balance the ship out more naturally. And you're shoving all your mechanicals and whatnot or your storage up where it's a less uniform space as it comes to a point.
And there's that really weird methane header tank mounting structure that we've been talking about for so long.
I really wish they would do away with this header tank and, let's say, use the flatter domes or even the current dome system and just go to the outer skin of the vehicle. Yeah. And that way you reduce the mass of the tanks itself. You actually reduce the volume that you're using for it. I mean, it's the same volume of fluids, but this is taking up a lot of extra space that it doesn't need to. And the COPVs, you either truncate them or you could truncate them a little bit and then make them a little bit larger as far as their diameter, or just put more COPVs that are shorter in there.
Or just build one giant COPV and call it.
Well, I think, and I have to defer to Starship 3D because we don't have the matching cross-section view here, but I got a feeling that ring stiffener that the COPVs are mounted on is probably about the same height as the bottom of the methane tank, which means you could basically put a ceiling there, and that would be the top of your nose cone workable area. There it is.
That'll be the beginning of your payload bay.
Just added the picture. Thank you, Starship 3D. Yeah.
So that is amazing.
If you built a ceiling at the COPV level, you're only losing that above the flap area to all of this hardware, and you still got to have all that structure there for the flap stiffeners. So it's not that huge an impediment.
I just look at it as like a payload area. So the original document that was put out years ago for Starship is to put along the idea of this is what we're looking at doing for the payload size. And, it's basically one of those things. Contact us. We'll actually talk to you about it once you decide to be able to fly with Starship. They will, make the accommodations with Starship or the vehicle itself. But we don't even have satellites yet that are that large. So I guess this will work for now, but it's just an interesting design. Thank you so much for that sharing with us, Starship 3D. This is such a unique view to look at it profile on here.
Yay. Thank you, Starship 3D, and thank you for agreeing with me that that's mostly dead space up in the tip of the nose.
Yeah, there's a lot of dead space, and I wish they could just use that for that tank, as I said. Let's go ahead and jump through a little bit more. So jumping over to here, we've got the ready ducts that got moved. Still waiting for them to either build the test stand C facility over here or something. It's kind of interesting. They've got all the conduit ready to be laid out. They actually just need the ground to be opened up and a location for where it's all going to be made. And this is at the suborbital side of the fuel farm. So as I mentioned earlier, there's plenty of cameras that they're working on lately. This is actually one of them right here that it looks like an older one, but it looks out into the mud flats.
The best one is the one that has the microphone just hanging off the side at the place where on the wall that it used to have the other camera that got blown off last time we had a static fire. That's the best one.
There it is right here.
That's it. It looks like a 1970s setup.
Yeah, it's got this nice little camera it's protected, and they've got the bracket here, and they replaced some bolts, it looks like, and they're recording the audio. It's like you're not going to get much audio out of this once it starts to static fire. But below it, do you guys recognize the HPU cover off of Booster 7? It's been removed. It looks like they're going for the battery. So let me see if we've got another view of that. That one almost works. I thought there was another one. Maybe I have to move back a bit.
What is it you're
Here we
looking
go.
for, Thomas? Sorry.
So this is the area that they removed that cover off of.
Oh, the
and it
HPU.
Looks like,
yeah,
the HPU. It looks like they're going for the battery. There's another angle just further to the right of this.
Wait, didn't they also just reapply or reattach that HPU cover on B7?
Would that have been today? Because I hadn't checked yet.
I don't know. The days and nights all meld into one for me these days, so I don't know if it was today or last night or yesterday. But it was in the last 12 hours.
Yeah, that would imply that they put it back on after they changed out the battery or something, and I think they pulled it off of.
They took the HPU cover and the HPU off of 8.
Yeah, the 8, and then it looks like they did some sort of transplant. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Well, 8 still had its battery last I saw it, but it had no HPU and no cover.
Okay. The reason I say they were going after the battery is because they was disconnected in one of the views here. I guess I just don't have it, or it might be a different photo.
And have that much power flowing around while you're working on
it. That's true. You might just disconnect it for that reason. So let me go back up here so we can go through the pictures a little bit more in order. So this is the back side of the back right side. So you've got the lines going up and down. The chopsticks will be going up and down here on the center of this. So that's kind of to get your positioning. And this is all going over to the ship QD on the that other side over there as well.
So one nice little point here while watching the most recent wet dress rehearsal. If you go back one picture, you'll see right there, as they flow the propellant through, it boils off and comes shooting out in this area. And just the pipes have to get chilled. And this is where they all the evaporated propellant comes flying out.
So this is the lock side, and if we have a shot from the mudflats here, there's another pipe sticking out 90 degrees to this on the backside for the methane side.
And the methane side gets recondensed, right?
It can do both.
Let's see if I can find a shot from the backside here. I thought we had one.
Yeah, in general, if you're not recondensing the methane, you need to flare it off.
I don't have it. It was, I think, 2 weeks ago that Mauricio was back there.
So while we're coming down here, you're coming up on the shot for Grandpa Joe to catch him up with what's going on. Why don't we continue forward?
You want to jump to the big one?
No, just keep continuing forward. We'll get there.
Okay. So let's, we've got a few more to go through.
A few.
Yeah. So they got the awnings just still sitting here for the launch table. And it's like, these are replacements probably for when they do static fires or the launch itself. They expect to have some replacements to do.
Do you think they're going to cover in the entire side ever or not?
I don't think they'll ever cover the side. It would be the idea is if you put or basically cover it over, you now have just created yourself a larger version of a pipe bomb. If there's gases that get trapped in there and it gets ignited, it's the worst case scenario. I do think they have some sort of purge system for the QD hood. NASA does it. SpaceX does it for their stuff where they have small QD systems or anything that's enclosed. So purging is really the best option, and I don't think they'll ever enclose the whole thing.
I don't think they'll seal it, but I think they might just extend the awnings down a little further.
I would have preferred the awnings to be wider and then the platform to be wider as well.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, that would have been a good idea too.
Yeah, I loved the sign over here. It's "Do not overfill." And it looks a little bit overfilled here.
I know from having to deal with our scrap metal dealers, they really don't like their loads going above the top of the dumpsters.
Yeah, but PK said that was okay because it's just hanging out a little bit because you have large pieces. I mean, they're bulky. They don't break them in half. So.
Well, he was joking about it. The way he was describing that, it was, oh, that's okay. That's normal. It's like, yeah, they do it all the time, but it's not supposed to be done. The problem is like they cover this over and they don't want things being picked up and thrown off of the road.
By current law, they have to throw a tarp over this, and stuff hanging out makes it hard to tarp.
But yeah, that is so funny. At least they're using the scrap properly, or at least getting that whole system going. So test stand A, we've got basically our two SPMTs with booster 25's transport stand just standing by. So it looks like they might still plan on moving it back here fairly soon after some testing of 25.
If you look behind that van there, we have a pickup with a trailer full of flex piping.
Oh, yeah. And this is all new stuff. They've covered it over, so it's cleaned out. They'll usually clean it out with steam, and then they will put these over it to help keep it all clean. Oh, better zoomed in shot. All right, so let's jump over to the launch mount a bit. So don't have Zach with us, so we don't have all the in-depth coverage there. I didn't see anything new occurring to the table itself, but it's still
they lifted something up on Thursday night, but nobody could figure out what it is or where it went.
Yeah, it was the size of one of those boxes. Let's see if we've got a good picture. Yeah. So one of these kinds of boxes, or maybe a bit smaller than that. And I'm kind of sitting there now thinking about it. What if that was the battery for the ship?
Could be. Like I said, I always saw something get. We always saw something getting lifted up in a very foggy nighttime shot, so it's sort of hard to tell what it was.
Good point. I wonder if they're going to open up this side as well in the future, or if it's just that one side that had an issue and they're replacing something or testing something.
Good question. And
they're certainly replacing something, the whole hydraulic system with electric.
Yes, true.
Starting to see something occur here.
Yeah, just look at this.
These legs.
Yeah, you can see there's something just changed about the legs. Let me jump right to a good shot directly of those legs. All right, this is a good one right here. These are all really good shots. But you can see that they've started painting. It implies to me that they're ready to do a static fire fairly soon. Like, we haven't done the wet dress rehearsal, which they need to do. Then they're going to do a static fire, or 2 or 3, or who knows how many. Whatever the data tells them, they'll have to go with it and keep working their way till they get to the point where they've done 33 engines, and they will be applying for that FAA license and finishing off all of the paperwork there.
Thomas, I think them painting it says the exact opposite. They're planning for the long haul to not have these things roasted off, so they're protecting it against saltwater intrusion now as they're done with the work. I think the painting it says they're done with that section, not that they're about to static fire.
The last 3 static fires they painted days beforehand, or even literally the day beforehand.
They do have a bad habit of static firing on wet paint.
and wet concrete. It's only 36 hours old, and they destroy the fondag. So
let's continue on because there's nothing.
Anything interesting going on there that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, we haven't seen Chopsticks up at the Starship that much recently, but nice to see him up there.
Yeah, it's locked in actually right here.
Yep.
I guess before we move forward a little bit, Indian Star, is there any more donations?
Yes, sir. There are quite a few, actually. First one comes in from Hoon Nguyen. He donated 11.99 euros and says, "Happy Year of the Rabbit Cat, everybody. Tomorrow is Chinese New Year. It starts on the 22nd and ends with the Lantern Festival on February 4th. So that's exciting." Gigi also donated $5. He's apparently a big fan, or she is a big fan of Jax, and says, "Bring Jax back." We didn't take Jax away. He was a little bit busy today, but hopefully he'll be back next week. And he also says, Gigi also says, "Mauricio, keep up the good work." Crane Man was kind enough to donate $25, as Mauricio mentioned, and says, "For fuel for your next awesome photo flight adventure." And then Astro Joe and Jim Cavett were both generous enough to donate RGV aerial photography memberships. Astro Joe and Astro Jen's donation went to D1, and Jim Cavett's donation went to Sandy. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you, Astro Joe and Jim Cavett, for your kindness.
Thank you for the donations, everybody.
Well, we got one more donation here from SB Shepherd, $4.20. Go RGV, go Starbase. Greetings from Alemania. Thank you so much. And moving on.
So we talked about this earlier, cameras. There's another camera. I suspect this camera has the metal pipe coming in here. It gets wrapped and turns and goes to this, but this will be gone. How many seconds do you think it'll disappear, Dave? And
I would be amazed if it lasts till the launch clamps open.
Well, for a static fire, I think we'll probably just have that disappear entirely before then. So now
I will admit this is not the first camera that SpaceX has put on a launch mount inside the leg, facing up at the engines. Thomas and I were reminiscing back to SN8, SN5. Do you remember, Thomas?
SN basically ship 4, 5, 6. Where
inside orbital test stand A, they had the world's highest quality Logitech 920 webcam mounted inside the leg, looking up at the engines.
$30-$40 on the internet. How much those would go for?
But yeah.
You can make something durable or you can make something cheap. Both ways work.
Yeah, when it's cheap and you're going to throw it away anyways, that's a good way to go.
When you're going to vaporize it within the first use, why spend a lot of money on it?
Yeah, these ones actually, it could last a bit longer, but we've seen the inside of these and the cabling gets melted and it's like, okay, that's not going to work out so long.
Yeah, without water cooling them and putting steel containers around them, they're not gonna have. Now, if you look at the bottom of this image, you can see what happens to an expensive camera with one static fire.
Yeah, there was a high-speed camera here. It was very expensive. It had a fan cooling system and everything, and it was just gone. We could see it before the static fire, and then we looked after the static fire, and I was like, there's something missing. There's a big white blob missing on the bottom corner. Oh, that's the camera. It's gone. So one other kind of fun little thing we've been playing is this game where you spot the blue pieces with tape on it, and they look to be a not an Easter egg like this is, but a what is it called? Like a G load or G shock test. So if
sensor.
It's basically if it breaks, you can see that it's changed color, and it will show you how many G loads it's hit on it. So those are just about everywhere on the mount, the table, just all over the place. So you just keep your eyes out for that. Okay, so this is from the looks like mudflat side, and we did see this and was like, ooh, we have the nice proper legs labeled again. So that's kind of neat. We can't really see too much else besides that here on Test Stand B. So yeah, just definitely stop me if there's anything you guys want to jump at or talk about here.
Nope, I'm just admiring the lovely views of the test stands as we work our way through. Oh, stop.
Yeah, that's a big stop here. So
So,
remember
Joe,
that pad of dirt, that big square one I talked about earlier? It's here.
this is the top of that pad of dirt.
Yeah, they removed a little bit of the dirt, I think, to do this, but they're building kind of something of a wall. So you can see the thickness of the wall. It goes from here all the way around. That is the thickness here. Just think of like an above ground pool, but this one is very different.
I'm probably going to eat lots of crow, but yeah, we were discussing this last night, and everybody trying to figure out why you need walls on this square thing. I said, well, it could be a water retention pool, above ground swimming pool to capture the deluge water after pumping into it after a deluge event. But
the idea would be that the silty material would settle the bottom, oils would float to the top, that kind of thing, so it separates out a bit as well.
It would be your basic minimal water treatment plant.
So what you're saying is it's not a launch tower?
Nope. The foundations are very weak.
No caissons going into the ground, probably not going to have much structure above it.
Yeah, sounds right.
But then the weird
part
part
we can go swimming is what I'm also hearing.
So Philakid, looking at this, pointed out that we've got not super heavy rebar, and we only have inside and outside and no center rebar. So again, not a heavy duty wall, not super strong, just sort of standard wall construction for concrete wall.
Yeah, my thinking on this wall is that it would be acting as kind of what you're describing as a retention pond or a pool, but only if a tank fails. So I think there's a chance that they're going to put tanks inside of this. We might even see methane or something like that, like we have at the orbital tank farm. They basically have that around the methane tanks. So I'm kind of thinking something along that direction.
There's a question that asks, where exactly is this wall?
So this is on top of that square pad of dirt. You'll have to go back and find that aerial.
Okay, so this is that spot right here.
There you go, Cosmic.
So I've zoomed back out just to get you a bit of perspective. So you should be able to see it from the road if there's no vehicles in the way. But over to the far area, over to the left, at the dunes and next to the ocean, you'd be able to see it as well. So those are the two really good areas. You might be able to see it up here from Highway 4 from the other angle, but it's just really, really strange.
So Disney Lover just asked a really good question. They asked, why is it above ground?
Because the water table is below ground. So they don't, without building a swimming pool and having to sink weight on it, it would float away if you tried to dig a hole in the ground there.
Yeah, think of a boat. That would be one way to look at it. If you dig down, so about, let's say, 6 inches below this soil right here, you're hitting water directly. It's that low. And this area actually will get flooded occasionally. It'll have water up here. So this basically being up above ground, that makes sense. You don't want your foundations to be ruined. So you basically put the dirt here and then put dirt on top of that to help squeeze out some of the water. That's kind of what that area is for. It looks like they actually dug down again. So that's why you see this dirt here. And they'll probably have some dirt in there as well that it'll be raised up again. So there's going to be like a main foundation, and then this is going to be the outer foundation, like a swimming pool, if you will. But the question is, like, what are they putting in there? And we're still kind of wondering about that. We know that there's a bunch of stuff coming from 39A. It could be pipe work that could go in there. It could be tanks. Could be that this is just an open air pool, essentially, that water from the water deluge system will get pumped back into this area. So during prior and after static fires or launches, you're going to have a lot of water that you want to deal with, and this is where it will be going, potentially, as the idea that Dave was talking about.
Yep, and that's required, I believe, as part of the original Army Corps of Engineers requirements. And oh yeah, as on terms of compliance, any word on the FAA checklist where we are on that?
None at all.
I mean, we're probably closer, and we could probably go through the checklist that you have, but they've got a massive checklist that they'll do for the FAA launch schedule. It's like we want to see probably the static fire happen before we can say, well, this is our final number on rating based off of noise levels and things like that they can give to the FAA. So there might be some of the data there that they will have to provide, but it's still like, what are we going to see from that? It's like, what is applicable and what really isn't? It's a hard question to answer. And Dave is actually a good one to answer some of it. So there are requirements that you have to have for safety and probably noise and noise abatement or something like that. But the main one that we were talking about forever ago was, or actually not even forever ago, more recently, we were saying,
we just lost you for a second.
Oh, sorry. There's all these test tanks and other things that we thought, well, this is for the FAA's paperwork that they might need. That actually might be the opposite. It might be SpaceX saying, we need this to verify the vehicle the way we think it's going to work, and this is part of their normal process that they should be doing. Nothing related to the FAA and the FAA stuff.
I love that the FAA had them do a historical book report as one of their key findings. I'm like, really? I really hope Elon goes to the local Brownsville public library and writes the book report by hand.
That would be hilarious. I think it would be better to put it to the school district and say, we will be giving out some sort of like tuition and to the student who writes the best report about this area. Like, they will go through and judge it.
That would also be awesome.
Yeah, that would be so cool. So we've been seeing some pipe work appear actually up here. That was one thing that I forgot about. So you can see there's an open end here. This I think has a few more photos of this area. So this is a welder that's been branded with SpaceX on it. There's a couple more pieces like this one right here. This is just for the tools that will go with this. So like you've got your sticks, your cables, other things that you'd put in there. But this I think is the main welding box. Oh, this is so much better. There we go.
Have there been any major upgrades to the orbital launch mount in the last few weeks besides cleaning?
Lots of little things, valves and pipe work and conduit. This is the conduit side here. Paint.
Stuff to the QD too.
Oh, what's been going on with the QD? I've missed that.
On the OLM, they did something. They were working on it as well. And the SQD as well, they were working on in the last few days. Maybe last 2 weeks.
Now, do you know what they had changed?
I think they've been working on it, but none of it's been really big and obvious stuff. It's been mostly cleanup, I think, would be my description of it.
We need some WD-40 or something on this quick. The one problem with this is that you could get water inside, and then it'll freeze, and that'll be a problem. But this is the thing we were talking about before, cameras, and more cameras. So Dave and I have talked about this forever ago. We were seeing this piece appear back on the orbital launch mount on SN8's, before SN8's inaugural flight. And it's a Moog mount. This particular mount, there's two of them. One's like $14,000, and the other one's around like 20 something. That's just for moving the camera in a like rotate it in two different directions, really. And then the cameras are here that are mounted on top. So this would be like the high-speed camera that you saw when SN8 landed, and you were looking up at the flames. That was just a glorious shot. That was basically a camera like this one. So
they installed the one. They had two things. They had the Moog mount, and then they had a Celestron telescope, and they were mounted over on top of a container in the tracking station. Yeah, SN8 maybe.
Yeah. And then we saw a couple more of these appear. So I think they've got like maybe 4 or 5 of these so far.
Yeah. I mean, they've definitely like this style of camera mount.
It's really smooth, even though you have like rocket exhaust hitting the area. That's really smooth. The camera itself that they have was like nearly perfect as far as the image quality. The only thing that was a problem was like the boost or the ship was landing a little too close. Oh, that is a really cool shot.
I hate to tell you, but S-22's aft section has just left the high bay without S-22.
Ooh. Well, we knew this was coming. Here's that pipe work that... no, wait. It's over there. So there's that rebar we were talking about before. It's just peeking out there. Wow, they're getting so close. They're making some...
I mean, they've got all the covers on all the legs pretty much have been finished. They're turning them from rusty steel into nice, pretty painted gray, integrated with the tower.
I think these were painted before the last static fire here. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, it looks painted, but I can't exactly tell what's going on. One thing
actually, if you look at that one, the horizontal pipe's only partly painted, and some of the down pipes are partially painted. Somebody's been working their way around doing touch up.
Yeah, one thing that was an open question is that after they've done, let's say, the first 5 launches from here, they're going to have a bit of a lull. And the question is, will they go through and start tearing things out of it and rebuilding the launch table to match what they've done at 39A? Because what they've done here is like they've started off, they've added more and more stuff. They copied it all to the 39A version, and they're still adding things and changing things. And then it's like, is it going to come full circle? Are we going to see them remove and change this launch mount to match it a lot better, including, let's say, water deluge?
I think we're going to see both, because I think they're also making changes here that are then having to be moved to 39A.
Yeah, and then maybe even vice versa. That's the interesting part. It's like it goes full circle, and we'll see. The question is, like, how much will they potentially rip out all of this? Like, especially you've got these kinds of cables that are going in. It's like, why not just have a hole that goes in through there and just be done with it? I don't know. It's just interesting, though, how much they will kind of jerry rig this and then change it. That's going to be the interesting part. So there's another view of the gentleman working with the camera system here. And what is this? Is that like a pitot tube for wind measurement or something?
I have no idea.
It's an arrow spike.
Horizontal rocket. I just noticed that, and I had to point that out. Do you have another view of that from the previous pictures? I just want to kind of...
Looks like it's been there a while. We probably just never noticed it.
Good point.
Boom.
More cameras.
They tidied all that up.
Yeah, what's funny is that these cameras are looking down this berm right here. So they've gone through, made a wall. They've got a bunch of pet rocks sitting around. And I guess those were what I thought were the tool chests were actually just pet rocks. Like there's a tool chest right there. But anyways, they're looking down this area. So when they have their launch or even the static fires, they're going to see the debris hitting the wall here and what goes up to the wall here.
You know, part of this looks much cleaner and nicer than dirt, but part of it's like, man, that's janky as hell. It's all wavy.
Yeah, this is pretty much an afterthought, I think, is doing this. And I was forever ago thinking about this and saying, well, they just need to put in some Jersey barriers. And they actually make them really tall. And it's like, you just bring it in, stick it on top, and you can even bolt it down. It's like, perfect. You're done. You don't have to deal with all of this. And they decided that it's going to be more permanent.
Around here, nothing's permanent, even concrete.
Very true. But yeah, day by day, they are getting closer to this launch. And then the big thing that's coming up here, and this is the title of our video today, is we're getting close to this wet dress rehearsal.
So what is a wet dress rehearsal? I mean,
So it's not just cryo. So cryo, at least from the outside, they look the same, but there's some huge differences. So during a cryo test, you fill it up with nitrogen and oxygen, but with a wet dress rehearsal, you're using methane. You're using the real stuff. So if something goes wrong, it goes wrong in a very big way. One thing we've been seeing is they've been moving out all of the sheriffs and everybody else to a roadblock further up near the village, and they've cleared out half the village, or at least saying, basically some sort of equivalent of an overpressure event could happen, but it's a verbal thing. It's not a written notice. So they basically say, we would like you to evacuate. And that's from Maria, that she's talked about this, and it's very interesting.
I wasn't talking to Maria, but I was reading her what she had posted, that they were asking her to move out this Saturday, I think, to stay in a hotel for a while, and then through next week they're going to be doing some. They might be closing down the road a bit, and they have the notices out for the flight and the mariners and the airmen notices. So, yeah, might be happening.
Yeah, as far as this wet dress rehearsal, absolutely the static fire will probably be soon after. The other part about this is we haven't actually seen a full, let's say, cryo test either. So what we might see is a full wet dress rehearsal, more so as far as the contents than even a like nitrogen and oxygen with a wet dress or cryo test. Right. But the other part is that to answer the question of what is a wet dress rehearsal, most of it is huge behind the scenes. So everything that is going to be going on at probably Stargate, they're going to go through the test data like crazy, as if this was the launch. So from the outside, everything looks like it's a wet dress rehearsal. But from the inside, it's everything except basically lighting those engines. They might even do other things equivalent to almost like a spin prime. You could see all sorts of events. Even the deluge system might turn on. Those all are things that you would expect to see during an actual static fire. So you treat it as if it's the real, not static fire, launch. So you treat it as if it's the real thing.
So it's a cryo with the spicy water is what I'm getting.
Oh yeah. Well, it's super spicy.
Extra spicy. So, and on the point of like having the folks get out, yeah, it's not a static fire, but it is loaded with propellant. And look, these things are much, much flimsier, lighter, and less reinforced than a long-term storage container. These are not thick walls. These are not double walls. This is as thin as humanly possible to handle that stuff. So, who knows what's going to happen? They've done the math, they've done the engineering, but little mistakes can happen, and, the math gets thrown out, stuff happens. Only way to know for sure is to test.
And I know from your experience, you've gone through and done a little calculation on how much methane and oxygen, if you, let's say it was a 75% ratio, I think you put it, like a perfect mixture of 75%.
It's like 0.357 or something to 1. So yeah, about 75% roughly.
Okay, and then what was the megatons that you were looking at?
Grand total, I think it was like 5 million tons.
TNT?
Like kilotons equivalent.
Yeah.
Was
it like 10?
10 was the original, but that would be a 100% perfect conflagration. If you take in reality and NASA/FAA real world examples, it gets down to about the 2 kiloton range, which honestly, you probably wouldn't even break a car window very far outside of the fuel farm. So like Lab's truck would be toast, but if you were halfway down the road at Lab Cam, that would be that probably your windows and glass would be fine, and everything else would be fine. Your hearing might be shot for a week.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at even just the pounds for 10, because that was the original number. I looked at it was like 2 pounds per square inch if you are how close was that? It was basically around the area of the vehicle. So Rover 2 sits across the street to be about 2 pounds per square inch of pressure that would basically ram into the vehicle. And
Yeah.
we've seen the vehicle shift and move when it had the explosion and static fires and other things, but never.
Sounds about accurate. Yeah, and look, these things are actually far louder and more powerful when they function properly. That rocket puts out more thrust than an incomplete explosion does. And even if it was a perfect explosion, it wouldn't even break glass at the Boca Chica village. So you'd be safe even there at a worst case scenario. So it's really not as dangerous as people think. But the real danger is setting back the space program. The real danger is screwing something up that we should have caught because we were rushing, and losing all the great work we've been putting into all this.
I mean, just thinking about it, the biggest issue is what you're saying is the fuel farm here. So we've got these massive tanks that are sitting nearby. These are the outer shells. It's really thick steel. But if you get past that and past the inner tank, you've now destroyed the tank, and that's not a position that we would ever want to see. But these two are water tanks, so that's not a big issue. But it's the rest of them that's the nitrogen and oxygen that they have on the fuel farm, and then the horizontal tanks that are laying down that we've seen in the aerial shots. Those are going to be the methane, and they're actually better protected because they are lower to the ground.
And let's take a quick break here. I think we have some donations and maybe some questions.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's
definitely have donations. We actually have Drop Bear, who's extremely generous in almost every stream. When he's around, is always generous. He donated 5 different RGV aerial photography packages or memberships, and they went to Dave W., Thomas Evans, Stephen Loffrey, I think it's just Upper, and then Blast Fiend. So 5 people all got a month's worth of RGV photos, and considering we do them every week, that's a good set of photos for you guys. I hope you all continue. And Drop Bear, thank you for your generosity. Alan C. also gifted an RGV photography membership, and it went to, it says Iman, I think. That's what I wrote, but I'll double check. I'm pretty sure that's the name. I might be butchering it though. But Alan C., thank you for your membership and congratulations to you who received it. Michael also donated, or actually Michael became an RGV flight supporter for the first time. Welcome to the team, sir. And John Dopker donated $10 and said, "Let's go, y'all." And those are all the donations for right now.
A couple more.
We got a big donation that came in just a little while ago from Martin Ellis.
Oh, my bad. I see it. Go on.
Yeah, it's for $150 US dollars. Thank you so much, Martin. It does help out a lot with the fuel and the rental costs for the aircraft that we're using. Haven't mentioned it before, but there's a big possibility that the flights might get more expensive just because of the fuel going up. So that's going to help out in that aspect. And he says, Martin says, thank you for the high quality photos. Enjoying the stream. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And do we have any more donations, Cindy, sir?
Nope, that's it for right now.
I got a couple of questions that I can read out here. One of them from Rajo. Will they open the chopsticks during the wet dress rehearsal?
Ooh, if I were them, I would.
Yeah, you do everything. I mean, that would be the best definition. You would retract the ship QD. You would do basically everything. You might even retract the booster QD as well, as if you were about to take off. And that one's something you don't have the actual static fire happening. So, that would be an interesting one because you could see potential effects as well. So if they do a quick disconnect like they do on, let's say, ship 4, they're going to be very, very astute to watch and see how it unloads the propellant. That's another part, is they don't want to have a ship 4.
The one I want to see for a wet dress rehearsal is if they disconnect the ship QD and pull the QD arm around the tower like they would on a real launch.
I think they should. Like everything except for the static fire or the launch of the vehicle should happen.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I just think it's good. That will be some interesting footage of watching, see how fast that arm when and how fast that arm moves.
By the way, going back to all the donations and everybody who has the new memberships that are just that is just amazing that people are doing that for everybody else. One thing you can look at is the number of photos for ground photos. There's 290 on all levels of Patreon. They are able to get those and full access to those photos. That's a huge deal. Most others don't do that, but Mauricio does. So thank you for Mauricio for doing that for the ground photos. And then the flight ones are just astounding, like how much detail you get for a memory photo.
We have a couple more images here. A couple more questions here. So we have another one. From Michael Mergens, if the manifold currently at Kennedy Space Center is for the Starbase deluge system, is there enough available water to power it, or will they have to put it in tanks and pumps?
Well, so the good news is we do actually have another tank available to do it. So I'll just jump to this overflight photo. So right now we've got these two were the methane tanks that they then sent down here to be horizontal methane tanks. And so now these two are water tanks. This was a water tank, but it needs repairs. So if they can go through and repair it and reuse this as a water tank, that would be perfect to use for their water deluge system. They might need to change out some pipes and add some additional pumps and other things that are being used currently for these. But that would be one of the ideas, is that they could use something like this. The other part is whatever is going here could also be part of the water deluge system, either on the sending or receiving side. So one thing that was talked about by Dave and a few others yesterday, so another perk of being a patron member is that you actually get to jump in and go through the photos live with us as we figure things out, is you can have your water deluge system basically collecting like this does. This one is pretty small by comparison to what they would need. But basically it's a gutter system. It would collect water, and you could basically then pump it from here over to here if this is going to be a basin to collect the water that they will have from the water deluge. They would probably need to increase the size of this, though. It's version 1, and they like to remove concrete, so you could see where we're going with that. I hope that does answer the question.
Yes, we have another question here from Smurf Trooper. Wet dress rehearsals or not, do you think they did not load methane last week during the test? I was under the assumption they did, but I could be wrong.
I think they did. So they were clearing that roadblock all the way up to like halfway between the village. And it's like, that's not something that's normal. We only saw that one other time during a test, and it was like, what is this about? Why are they doing that? And they were kicking out photographers out of the area too. It was like, and you could only go a little bit past like Sanchez to be that was like the area that they weren't really kicking people out, was from that area up north to Richardson. And that would be the area for the river. That's the last turnoff.
All right. We have another question from Andy Alder. Can we concur wet dress rehearsal involves MSIB actually being signed and published like for next Wednesday, but not next Monday?
Most likely.
Yeah, it's going to happen this week. It seems like everything pushes that way.
I believe there is an MSIB for Monday and Wednesday, but not Tuesday.
I thought it was the 23rd through the 25th, which would be Monday.
I think it's 23rd, comma 25, not hyphen. Somebody was pointing that out. I have to go back and look at the document.
Even I need to.
But yeah, those little details, the comma versus a dash, mean a lot. But the fact that they're going towards a wet dress rehearsal is huge. They're cleaning things out almost as if it was a launch, but because we're not launching, there's less a chance of debris and other things, so they don't clear out nearly as far. So they would still probably have a chance of clearing out everything up to Richardson if they wanted to, just for testing out that as part of their security system. But it's like everybody's still working at the site, which is interesting.
And Dave is correct. It is January 23rd and January 25th. From the
There's
hours
a comma, okay.
It not even a comma, it just says and.
Oh.
During the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it says a hazard will exist in the vicinity of SpaceX facility. And if you look at the red area on the MSIB, I believe it cuts that village in half, which might speak to Maria's comments about how Emerson doesn't get evacuated, Emerson does get evacuated, but the other side doesn't. What's the other street called, Dave?
It's Esperson and Weems.
Yeah, Weems doesn't, but Esperson does, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that might speak to that as well.
All right, we have another question here by David 142. Do you think they will remove the scaffolding from the chopsticks before the flight?
I would say I hope so.
We've seen them not do that before. We're like a ship takes flight. Was it SN5? They had scaffolding still in place. It was flying everywhere.
All right, we have another question from Desert Nomad Studios. Given the water table so shallow, why don't they just cut a hole in the ground and thrust into the water rather than the soft creek?
Completely agree. I was wondering that myself.
The problem is they need a hard surface under the tower so they can drive the SPMT in with BART, the work platform.
And that would imply that they would now have to have a system that lowers into place or something like that to be able to put in your work platforms and everything else. So it has to hold the SPMTs, which weigh quite a bit. It gets to be a really interesting engineering challenge. The greatest thing about how this table is set up is it allows the free flow of gases in all directions. If you look at anything like the N1, which would be the closest as far as rockets go in power, they were restricting it in several different directions, and it was causing quite a bit of damage, but this is very open. The only thing that you're worrying about is, let's say, the concrete at the bottom, which would be the fondag. In this case, when they do the 33-inch static fire, that's where we will really know how well it holds up, because last time they did it, it was sitting there for 36 hours, and then they had to pull it. So I'm really interested to see how the results will be. One thing that you can also do if you have small divots or cracks or things that are just removed chunks of concrete that are small areas, you just put Martite over it. So Martite works really well with fondag, and that's what NASA uses for all of their facilities, is basically a combination of both of those.
All right, we have another question here. Alan Lawrenson, the question is, when do you think the first launch will be? Me personally, I want to say March, or I left the poll there in the comments so everybody can vote. Want to see what everybody thinks on that.
I will say late February, mid-March.
Months ago, I was tracking February 20th was the end of their schedule, but they kind of pushed it back by about a month. So between the end of March the end of February and the end of March is the range I'm looking for. So probably March, let's say like 10th could be the range that would be the closest.
I have been tracking this so long that I'm convinced it's April. Just every time I have an expectation, it gets pushed back by about a few weeks. So I'm going to say April.
If it's April, then let's just go May and call it 2 years since the last launch.
Yeah. Yep.
But what a launch it's going to be.
Oh, I'm going to be there if I can help it. You guys going if you can help it, Dave and Joe and anybody else?
I'm sure planning on it. I have no clue where I might be staying, because I got a feeling it's going to be a fight to the finish for every available nook and cranny to cram people into anywhere within 30 miles of Brownsville.
You'd think that, but South Padre Island is tuned to hold many, many, many people during the summer, but it's relatively empty up until May. So I think you might actually be pretty okay.
Well, you better hope that the launch doesn't happen on spring break then, right?
Oh.
That'd be an interesting time to do it.
Oh.
Man, those kids would love that. We wouldn't.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Earlier, I think Grandpa Joe mentioned about, we were talking about Mexico, and, what did you say about Mexico, about building like a viewing port over there to watch?
Oh, yeah. You could get a lot closer there.
that's the question. What the situation is in Mexico with with the cartels and the land that's adjacent to the border there. I even have some friends in Mexico that they're actually kind of reluctant traveling to Mexico to watch the launch from that side. They're like, yeah, I think I'm gonna watch it from the U.S. side at this point because how sketchy things are over there. We don't want people traveling to Mexico and they don't come back, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel that.
But I mean, I've seen some videos from Mexico, and they are actually. I'm not sure what the regulations are or what arrangements they have to, to keep people away from the exclusion zone and all that. But aside from that, I mean, SPI is going to be congested during the launches, or especially for the orbital flight. I'd probably do Port Isabel is also a good place to do it, but finding a spot to watch it from Port Isabel, it's going to be kind of tough. So, like you've said before, I think SPI is going to be the best place. But
just so that we can
it'll be
crowd it all
pretty-
up and have too many people. Where are you planning on going?
at this point, I was thinking South Padre Island or maybe Rocket Ranch, if it's outside the exclusion zone.
Yeah, Rocket Ranch sent their invites out to the people that are interested about a week ago, going, now's the time to be thinking about it. There's also Maria's plot of land down
Starship
the street
Station.
Starship
Yeah.
Station. Right now, it looks like it's outside the exclusion zone by about 10 feet, but
Boy, if that expands at all, man, that would terrible.
Yeah, that's the one that we're constantly going back and forth on the exclusion zone. There was a rumor of like they're going to extend it 2 miles, and that would just kill things. It would not be tenable to happen if it's going to be 2 miles, because that would be like almost to the bridge. It would be for South Padre Island. It's just too much of an area politically. You just could not make it happen.
Hey guys, it's 3:00.
Ooh,
Let's continue this in the Patreon lounge, and yeah.
I think we've. Yeah, I mean, any other hot questions, RGV?
or donations?
There was
One donation.
You can read the donation in there, sir.
From John Dopker, $5, and he says, so he still hasn't decided on whether it's deluge or deluge. And he was laughing, and I think that's funny as well.
I feel deluded. Right.
But do you feel deluged? Sorry.
I feel delusioned.
There is one
Thanks,
last
John.
question here from David Gracie. I missed the part of the show until the show, but do you think they'll shield the orbital launch mount stairs before static fire?
At the rate they're going, I don't think so.
I'm not real high probability of that, just because the stairs are solid steel and really aren't at high risk to actual damage other than paint.
Yeah, so they're probably not. It's behind the leg. The leg's going to take the brunt of it, and so they put paint on the leg to protect it for the first 2 seconds of the fire.
Yeah, they'll paint the stairs, but they'll catch wraparound on the leg. But there's no systems on the stairs other than like just the stairs themselves. So they may or may not actually worry about protecting them. That's my guess. So we ready for the final round here, Thomas?
Well, that was it.
Goodbyes.
It's the final countdown.
Yeah, the final countdown. So thank you for joining and having me, everybody. I thought this was great to go through the ground photos again this week, Mauricio. So I'll actually hand it off to you, and you can hand it off to the next person after that.
All right. Well, it was a good show like always, and thank you so much for everybody that tuned in today and watched. If you like the video, you can still do that right now. And thank you for all the supporters, the donations that came through. Definitely will help out a lot on the next flyover. We're still pending on the availability on the pilot and the weather situation to be in our favor. But we'll get it done as soon as we can. And thank you so much. Indian sir?
Hey peeps, just wanted to say thank you as always. We also want to give a shout out to 55 Chevy guy Steve, who donated $10 and says, great show, thanks. And for all of you, I hope you all make it. I hope everybody is in a good mood, and I hope that we all can continue to have good conversations about what's going on, because it's all meant to be fun. It's not meant to be aggressive or mean. It's just meant to be fun. So hopefully you'll all join us, and hopefully you'll all agree. And I will hand it over to Dave.
And thank you, everybody, for being here. Yeah, everybody, say a word to your favorite deity that we have good weather from Mauricio to fly this coming week, because we really could use some fresh aerial photos. And with that, I will hand it off to Grandpa Joe.
Thanks, Dave. All right, guys, it's been another great week. Thanks for hanging out and letting me come back every week. And man, it's always wonderful. With that, time to take off. Main engine cut off. Stage separation confirmed. Love you. Bye.